Hello, and welcome back to the dungeon for episode 7, 7 superficial Sibilants supporting Slaanesh. I'm Matt.
And I'm Evelyn.
And today we are going to talk about Slaanesh and Slaanesh, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so we're definitely going to have a little Anvil of Souls where we'll have lots of hobby progress to share. And then we're going to talk about the games played. We did play quite a few games. And then we're going to talk about sort of starting a new army in AOS, kind of, what do I call it? Empty wallet, happy heart, that kind of thing. And then I have a sort of an interview that I did with Conor, where we just talked about the Cruel Boys a little more in the Orc Codex. I'm sorry, the Orc Battletome. Really sorry that this is a week late, but I wanted to wait for a week because A, I wanted to get this interview in, and then B, I wanted it to be on the opposite weeks for my D&D group. Because I have a D&D group that I do on Sundays, and I like to record on Sundays, but I obviously can't, record after I play D&D because I'm always really, really tired. So we decided to wait a week to put this one out, and then from now on, they'll just be every 2 weeks, starting on Tuesdays. Same bat time, same bat channel. So without further ado, I suppose we will go into the hobby and paint. All right, welcome back to the Anvil of Souls. I will say we have a lot of hobby progress to talk about this time. What exactly did you do, Evelyn?
Well, I painted a lot.
Why did you paint a lot?
I was given a deal by my dad that if I painted my entire army, the entirety of my Bone Reaper's army, I could pick up this trade to paint.
Would you like a holiday paint exchange over at the store where you drop off a model to get painted and then you pick up a model to paint? And it's sort of like a painting Secret Santa. It's pretty fun. High Tide Games does it. And Evelyn wanted to paint a Lord Discordant.
I did indeed. Disco Lord himself. But I needed to paint my entire army to do so, so I did, in fact, do that. I painted fully and based fully the horses that I put together. So I painted the 10 Cavalos Death Riders that I put together and said I would paint, as well as fully painting and basing my Liege Cavalos. I also had 20 Mortek Guard that needed based, so they got based. And I also had some Morghast Harbingers from Blake that we previously mentioned he gifted to me. I needed to paint them, so I painted them, and then some needed to be based, some didn't. So I did that. And then I was finished.
Yep, and then you were finished, and now you have a whole army that's completely painted and based and looks really good.
It looks beautiful.
And it's something you can be proud of. And now you can go into Christmas and into a new year and a new army with like a nice free heart, right?
Yep, but before that, I get to paint not mine, but a Lord of Discordant.
Yes, and I will say Evelyn has a little bit of a different idea of what flesh metal is than we do, so stay tuned for that.
Oh, it's amazing. It's going to look beautiful.
What are your hobby goals and promises for this for these next couple weeks?
Well, I definitely want to get this Lord done because I need to turn it in by a certain time.
December 18th.
Yeah, but I'm gonna get it done before then. I just maybe next Monday. By next Monday or something like that.
If you work at it, yeah, I'd say he's about 60% painted right now.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not exactly sure what else. I mean, there is a little bit of Nurgle that's just like not put together fully. They're just sort of like half put together. It's like 2 dudes and a half.
Yeah, the stuff that I had originally gotten for Elaine.
Yeah. Another thing.
You want to say that you're going to put those together?
I'm not sure because I do actually have Christmas things to do.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so we were doing a Secret Santa for my friend group, and...
Oh, wait, does this person actually listen? Because...
No. They really like Transformers, so I picked up a Transformer model from High Tide, Robots in Disguise, and I'm going to paint it, and it's going to look cool.
She's going to paint it yellow.
It's Bumblebee.
So, good luck with that.
Yeah, so maybe I might actually take a break and be able and do some Christmas stuff.
All right, sounds good. So that's what you're going to do in the next 2 weeks. You're going to finish those 2 models.
Yep. And what about you?
I'm focused on painting this entire army kind of all at once. So here's what I have done. I don't have anything done, but of the models that I have, what I did was I painted all the skin on them first, and then I painted all the red on them, and for like the shields and the whatnots, and then I painted all the brown on them. And now I'm at the point where tonight I'm probably going to paint all of the silver on them, and then I'm going to wash it all, put a couple layers, highlights on it, and probably be done hopefully by next time. So in 2 weeks I'll be done with this whole army, hopefully. And the army consists of 20 Cruel Boys, 2 Killabosses, 3 Manskewer Bolt Boys, a Swamp Boss Scumdreck, a Marsh Crawler Sloggoth, a Break a Boss on Mirebrute Troggoth, and a Beaskewer Killabo.
Nasty.
And in between the last couple of weeks, I did get some work done on my Star Wars Legion army. Now, I know Star Wars Legion is in GW, but I will say, putting together these models have been a real pain in the butt. And painting them has been really nice. I love painting droids. So I painted up 6 droidicas, and then I painted up 9 B1 battle droids. Roger, those little guys. And then I painted up 6 B2 super battle droids. I'm well on my way to getting that army together, and I'll finally, hopefully, get General Grievous next time I come in. And I bought a couple more little upgrades and stuff that you can have for them.
No more droidicas.
No more droidicas. Oh my god, I hate those stupid droidicas. They were so awful to put together. But painting them was pretty nice. I like painting them.
What colors are you painting them?
The colors that are standard. So they've got this candy red shell on the outside, and then on the inside it's kind of metallic. And then I wanted to have like a little bit of a blue, like a blue fade to represent their shield, maybe hitting the ground and going, psh, psh, things like that.
Yeah.
And all their weapons are going to be blue because that's kind of the color of blasters. So I'm definitely doing that. The battle droids are that kind of that tan color that you see with Tau a lot. And then the super battle droids are just straight up metal. But I also did all of them with a little bit of a blue tinge for either their weapons or their, just to make it look a little flashier, because I didn't want to just slap a couple coats on and call it good. I wanted it to look a little flashy. In the next 2 weeks, I definitely want to get this army completely done because I need to get it done. I've got other stuff in the works. I've got Slaanesh coming up. That's what we'll talk about today. I've got a bunch of vampire stuff coming in because I ordered the battle box for that. And I also have, what else do I have? Some more Star Wars stuff to put together.
You also have a brain tentacle dude.
Oh yeah, I have to get the brain tentacle guy done because that's, due on the 18th. And I want to have it long before. I want to have it done by that guy. I'll probably get done by next Monday because
that's the guy he chose to pick for the Secret Santa paint and take thing.
Yeah, it's like an exposed brain with like tentacles, and it looks kind of Cthulhu-esque, and I'm going to make it look pretty nasty. I'm actually already about halfway done painting it. So I think that'll turn out really well. That'll be an easy paint. Maybe I'll just get drunk and paint it one night. I'm sure Sean will like that. I do all of that, and on top of all of that, I got one of the dragons. I got, I'm going to build Scar. So I want to build and paint that dragon. I don't know if I'll be able to paint him before next time, but I want to at least build him. But mainly I'm going to get that army together and based. That's a promise.
Looks like you're going to be busy.
I am going to be busy. It's a hobby promise.
A hobby promise.
Yeah. And I haven't really actually painted a whole lot the last couple of weeks. And the reason why is because I've been playing a lot of Dead by Daylight. I was trying to get myself up to rank 1 Survivor. And rank 1 Red Survivor is really difficult to do. I was playing almost every night. And when I wasn't playing, I was watching videos on how to play. And it was just a rough situation all around. But now that I'm rank 1 Red, I really don't care about playing every night or anything like that anymore. I'll still play because I have fun with my friends, but I definitely won't get on in solo queue. Oof. So that's what we've done in the last couple of weeks, the last 3 weeks, in fact. And we will be right back for Games Played. And we are back to talk about our Games Played. You want to start off?
Sure. So I'm going to start from a little bit far back. The Saturday before Thanksgiving week, I played against Necrons with my Tyranids.
A monster.
Yes, it was like 75 power level of monsters and a little bit of Gribblies. It didn't go too well for me. I have a feeling monsters are not the best in the newest edition.
He shot you, didn't he?
Yeah. He just focus shot each monster down, and eventually I started running out of things. Plus, the game was based off of how many power level it was. So like he'd get double the power level, whatever it was. So if he focus shot down a monster, then he's gonna get a lot. It was still kind of close though. Like the points were pretty close. I was only like maybe 10 off.
Yeah, I mean, and I played in the same mission. I played against a guy who did Nurgle, and our game was really close too, in points, if not in. Actually, our game wasn't close in points, but it was close in, like by the end of it, I had almost nothing left, and he had still quite a bit left actually, because it was Nurgle. Oh man, it was hard taking Nurgle stuff down with orcs. And it was funny because in the beginning I could kind of see his confusion about like, well, what do I take down and how do I kind of take it down? But then by about turn 4 or 5, he was like, oh, I'm just going to go delete that unit of orcs. Oh, I'm just going to delete that unit of orcs. I was like, oh no, oh God, he's getting me. It was a great game. It was kind of cool because you had the mission. It was the mission where you had to get stuff off planet. And if you got stuff off planet, then it was worth double its power level, I believe.
Yeah.
And then if you killed it, you got its power level, or did you get double? I can't remember.
It was either its power level or double.
And I have a feeling that Evelyn's poor monsters just started getting shot off the board, and that was it.
Yeah. It was a little rough.
That's okay. You live and you learn, then you get loves, right?
Sure.
So what was your second game?
My next game was a little different. It was Thanksgiving.
Oh, I was in that game too.
And so basically we brought our tanks, our big vehicles. I chose to bring Genestealer cults to this one because, Tyranids doesn't have many tank-like things. It was the next thing other than Tyranids, so Genestealer cults was pretty cool. I brought you
brought 2 Leman Russes.
Yeah, and then 3 Rock Grinders.
Yep. 2 Leman Russes, 3 Rock Grinders, and
free unit of Genestealers.
Yeah, can't go wrong with free unit of Genestealers.
And we had to get the turkey in the middle by like having our vehicles run up and fight each other, and then the unit, like the one free infantry unit, goes in and gets the turkey.
Yeah, because it was like a supermarket that the infantry unit would have to go in there and get it.
I was so close.
She was close, and then I believe Chris with his Grey Knights came in and like wrecked some Genestealers.
Yeah, because he managed to charge me.
He got her, but then he was stuck in there with the turkey with his his Terminators, and he's like, I don't have a way to get these guys out of here all of a sudden. So
there were only 3.
Yeah, and eventually on turn 5, I got my Khorne Berserkers up there, and they did what Khorne Berserkers do. They chopped those Terminators to bits.
Yeah, it was a really cool game.
We had no problem saying that he won because he was the only one to actually, because picking up the turkey is an action, and he was the only one that was able to get in there and pick up the turkey and hold it for like at least a round. So we were like, yeah, you win. It's definitely, I had no problem with it. I did what I wanted to do, which was go in and carve some things up. It took me 5 turns to get there. So on that 5th turn, I was just so happy to murder something. Yeah. I brought, in that same battle, I brought a Lord of Skulls, and I brought a nasty tank. And then the Lord of Skulls just went around crumping things off. He just shot things off the board and crumped it. It was great. I loved it. Didn't get to the supermarket, but did get to kill things.
Eventually you did.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I had this tentative alliance with the person next to me who was playing Nurgle. He was like, I was like, well, he said, if you don't shoot me, I'll not shoot you. And I was like, okay, sounds good. And then we just went swept forward into the middle, which if we had attacked each other, then we would have just sat there the whole time and attacked each other, and we wouldn't have gotten anything done. So
yeah, and the other half of the board was a little bit of a mess. There was a lot of carnage. At first they were like, yeah, we'll all be together. And then they were like, oh, well, kill the Necrons because that could be a problem.
Well, the Necrons got close to the center. They started close to the center and then started getting closer to the center. And then everybody was like, oh, we got to get those Necrons. And then they were like, oh, you're getting a little bit close there, Orc. And the orc player was like, no, I'm not getting that close. But by then it was already too late.
Yeah. And then they were like, oh, well, we'll let you get to the red square. And then, like, you know, because there's like a nice red square right in the middle between like the deployment zones. And I could see that was just going to dissolve as soon as they got out the building.
Oh, yeah. Their fragile alliance definitely was. It was hilarious watching it just go up in smoke. It was a fun game. It was great. It was nice little, you know, we all got to spend a little bit of time together. We sat around a board, we rolled a bunch of dice, and we killed a bunch of vehicles with other vehicles. What more could you really ask for?
Yep. And then after that, I didn't go that Monday. And then we didn't go that Saturday. And then finally I get to go back and play a game, and it's the big orcs versus ogres.
Yeah, so she brought her ogres. And we played against
Hunter?
Yes, it was her and Hunter against myself and Conor, and we were playing orcs and they were playing ogres. And why don't you tell them what happened in that battle?
That battle was a little interesting. So the battle plan was you pick 3 units and the opponent picks 3 units, and then you tell each other, and then you try to kill their 3 units with one of your 3 units.
They're like Hunter units.
Yeah. And it went a little interestingly with us because we kind of spread out when I feel like we probably shouldn't have, being ogres.
Definitely not. You should have not. They tried to capture all 3 objectives on all 3 sides and he brought 10 models in 1,000 points.
Oh yeah, because he brought a bunch of like the fast moving, and then I brought like 12 ogres. I don't know. I can't remember if it was 2/6 or 1/12.
It was 2/6. You brought 2 6-packs of ogres. And you brought a big guy, right? Mm-hmm. Thunder Tusk, I believe. Or no, Stonehorn.
Stonehorn. And I brought my pot, and I brought a butcher. Mm-hmm. He was the last model alive.
That 2-cast butcher?
Yes. And then he brought like 8 Mournfang, I want to say.
Yeah, it was 8 Mournfang.
And a Thunder Tusk. He was really rocking some power, and he spread them all out. And I was like, oh no, he didn't just do that. And I stuck all of my ogres all up in one little group and pushed them forward. Was like, deal with this.
Well, and we did.
You tried.
No, we definitely did. There was no try.
I managed to kill some things with them.
Yeah, you did manage to kill most of a 10 spot of Cruel Boys, and
your big.
You killed my swamp boss Scumdrek.
Yep. Indeedly so I did, but it was with the wrong unit of ogres.
That's okay, because at the end of it, she had 1 model left. That was that one little butcher that was just sitting there at the pot casting spells. And what did we do to that thing? Did we eventually just shoot it to death, or did we? I
think you may have gotten up there because his other swamp boss on Scumdrek was just sort of sitting out there. So I think there may have been a fight.
Well, I brought the actual named character Swamp Boss Scumdrek, and then the other guy, Conor, he brought just the non-named character version of that. And I want to say that we might not have gotten you because you were behind your pot, and we can't charge through it or anything. We can't go around. We have to go around it.
Yeah, maybe he did live, but you definitely bested us on points.
Yeah, for sure. So that was a big W for us and for the WOG. And then why don't you talk about your last battle, which actually was between yourself and Hunter.
It was. So I came back with my fully painted Osiric Boner Burst because this is the first time playing with them fully painted. And I was fighting his ogres in a 2,000-point battle. It was his first 2,000-point battle with his ogres. And it wasn't my first 2,000-point, but it was my first one in a while because I hadn't played in a while. So it was really interesting. We played a battle for, I think it was like the territories. There were 5 objectives, two on the edge of mine, 2 on the edge of his, and 1 in the middle. So we're the one where you had to control it for 2 turns.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The objective, and it was a really close game. Like it was pretty heated. We traded units. I murdered some. He murdered some.
Whenever I looked over there, I would look over, and on the left side of the board, I would see her. What do they call your Cavalos Death Riders? Were just disappearing under a storm of ogre fists. And then on the right side of the board, he was valiantly trying his hardest to kill your little guys.
The Mortek Guard?
Yeah, your Mortek Guard. But then I think the right side was kind of a losing battle for him. Or it looked like it.
Yeah, eventually. I mean, he did manage to kill one unit. That's because my Skittles was not fully up there.
Your
my
Skittles.
Gothazar Harvester. He was not fully up there. He's only up to one unit. But that one unit did live.
Yeah.
Oh, he lived. He said it was pretty annoying.
Yeah, he was like, I can remember he looked afterwards. He was like, oh, these guys are so annoying to kill. And I was like, right.
Got like 4 saves.
Yeah, that was cool.
So yeah, he did end up winning out of points because he eventually managed to yoink more points than me and for longer than I.
Well, congratulations, Hunter. I mean, hey, that's a hard army to go against. Those Ossiarch Bone Reapers are no joke.
Yeah, although I will say they're matched with ogres because there's so many mortal wounds, and mortal wounds are like one of the only ways you can get to them because
that's true.
They only gives them 1 save.
So those are your games, right?
Yep.
All right, so we've already heard about 2 of my games now. Actually, we've heard about 3 of my games now because I talked about my game against Nurgle.
Yeah.
Right? My last game that I played was against Phil. He ran me through an introductory game to Star Wars Legion. He was playing with Luke Skywalker and a couple, like some Rebel soldiers, part of the Rebel Alliance. And then I was playing with my droids, part of the Separatist Alliance. Completely not like... We definitely existed in the wrong timeline because I had General Grievous and he had Luke Skywalker. And it was funny. It was fine. It was fine. So we were trying to play this mission where we had to get any of our unit's leaders on the opposite side of the board. And so his first turn, he put most of his guys, he set up most of his guys in cover. And he was like, yeah, I've got heavy cover. So he had heavy cover and I was like, well, I guess I'll just move up and shoot you because that's kind of what I do. And so I rolled these dice to shoot and got like an exorbitant amount of critical hits, which completely ignore cover. And he was like, oh, crap. And then when he rolled his defense dice, he didn't get any pips at all. So like 4 dudes out of his squad of 6 just died straight off the bat.
Oh my.
And I pushed my guys up as hard as I could. Like I pushed them up real far. And then when the second turn came around, because it's not an I go, you go system, you trade off activating units. And so when we rolled to see who went, we revealed cards to see who go first, we both wanted to go first in the second turn. And then I won the roll off. So I activated General Grievous and ran up and charged his walker. It's like I don't know what that thing is. Was it ATST or something? No, I can't remember what it is. It was a rebel walker with a guy inside that had a really nasty cannon. So I ran up, charged it, and had a card that dealt a bunch of damage to him and everything around it. Like I got an attack on everything around it. And I managed to like murder the ever-loving crap out of that thing and then deal a bunch more damage to everything around, including Luke Skywalker took 2 wounds from that, unfortunately for him. And then it just went downhill from there for him because I think once things start to snowball in that game, in a low points game, as we were playing maybe, 400 points or something, like real low points, there's no recovering from it. And so my Droidicus started rolling up the battlefield and got into his deployment zone. Luke Skywalker went down to a barrage of General Grievous's attacks. And then he valiantly made one of the rebel soldiers charge General Grievous, and he like tried to kick me with his combat boots or something. And he did roll to hit, and he did hit me, and I saved. Fortunately, I rolled a pip to save it. And I thought to myself, I would think General Grievous like turn around and like slice the toe off of his boot and be like, "What are you doing?" Poor guy. He was just in a losing battle.
Hey, I mean, at least he had the guts to charge that thing.
Yeah, so it was a great introductory game. And there are some things about this system that I think that GW can learn from. And one of the things that they do better than any other system that I have seen so far is movement. It is so nice. So imagine a base, right? A 25 millimeter base. And then imagine a little ruler. And on one end of the ruler, there's a little bevel where you stick it into the 25 millimeter base, right? So it fits exactly in. And on the other side of the ruler, there's another little bevel. So you pick the base up and you put it on the other side. And that's it. That's how you move. Isn't that awesome?
That's interesting.
So there's no like, oh, you were supposed to move 4 inches, but you moved 4.12 inches, or that seems like an awful long 5 inches, or whatever. You just always, it's so precise because you stick it into the little bevel of the base, and you put the bevel of the base on the edge of on the other end of the ruler, and there you go.
And it just works.
Yeah, and then how it works is that you only measure the squad leader with the squad leader, and then anybody else you can put around him in any configuration you like within 2 inches. So if you wanted to make your guys go 2 inches more up the board than your squad leader, you absolutely can. But when you're measuring to shoot from the squad or anything, then you measure from the squad leader. So it doesn't behoove you to put extra guys up there, because when they shoot back at you, they could shoot at the guys that are in front of the squad leader. So it's just kind of giving your opponent extra range on their shots.
Yeah.
I really love that about that game. I thought they did it particularly well. And there's a couple other things that I think Star Wars Legion does really well, and a couple things that I think they could maybe learn from as well. But overall, I enjoyed the game, and I thank you very much, Phil. It was great. I can't wait to play a real whole 800 point game with you, and I hope I give you some sort of a challenge, because I know I'm like super new to it. But I understand objectives. I just don't know the armies yet. I don't know what they do. So sometimes it could be a little bit like, oh, what does this guy do? Where do you find that? What are these defense dice again? That kind of thing. So those are my games played. And next we're going to actually get into Slaanesh and sort of how to build an army, because I think that's really what we're talking about here, is like, how do you build an army? How do I build an army? Stay tuned for that. Hey, welcome back. We're actually talking right now about starting an army, or let's just say you want to start a new army in Age of Sigmar. So how exactly do you go about doing this? And I guess the real question is, what do you start with? Do you list your models first, or do you want do you look at the models and say, oh, I want the rule of cool to be how I build my list? Or do you build your list first and then you go with the rule of rules? What about you, Evelyn? What do you do?
I usually get whatever, the starting box, and I get at least one of every unit. Usually, sometimes the units, some larger units I don't end up getting, and then I make my list from that.
I kind of do the same. I tend to get at least one of every unit in the army, main unit, and I try not to duplicate units unless I either really like them, or unless they're integral to the actual army. So for instance, with my Cruel Boys, I had to have more Cruel Boys, more actual boys. I had to have more than one unit of those, so I had to buy a couple more.
Same thing with my Mortec Guard. I couldn't just have one unit 10 or one unit 20. I needed a little bit more to make my army full.
Yeah, I mean, because you have to have so many, you've got to have so many core units, and there aren't a whole lot of core units in a lot of these armies, especially the ones that we're starting. I am going to start me a Slaanesh army, because I really think those models look fantastic, and I love the way that they played when Alan and I did our little test of them, and even though I was going up against them. What about you, Evelyn? What are you going to start?
I'm starting a Nurgle army.
Maggotkin, huh?
Yes.
And we're going to talk a lot about Maggotkin when the actual book comes out, but figured we'd start talking about how we wanted to build our army. So I'm guessing for you, it's more like one of everything, and not there's no rule of cool. What do you pick up first? Do you pick up the best thing first? Do you pick up the
I actually end up picking up, it doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest thing, but I do like my painting, so something that looks like I'm going to be able to paint it, it's going to look epic. I like to pick up either that or usually the starter boxes. But for my Nurgle, I saw the Great Unclean one and I was like, I want that.
Yeah, he looks cool. He's got a mouth in his belly. I do kind of the same thing. I'll typically pick up whatever it is that I want to paint first, and typically that'll be whatever caught my eye for the army. In this case, I think that the first thing that I want to pick up for Slaanesh is maybe Dextressa or Sinessa, the two demons. I think they look really cool. They kind of look like peacock demons. I don't know. That's just what I tend to pick what I want to paint up first. But then after that, that's when I start hitting the start collecting boxes, or I start getting my core troops out of the way, because if I've treated myself to begin with, excessively treated myself, so to speak, I'll tend to get a couple, like at least one or more core units painted next. Let me ask you, how do you pick a scheme to paint?
Typically, I start out with looking at like the normal schemes. So like for Nurgle, normal schemes, green, nastiness, diseased looking. And then I think, what cool could I do? What other than that could I do? Or like what colors look cool together? For Nurgle, I was like, I looked up Nurgle color schemes just in general online, and I saw a lot of like green. I saw some like reddish ones, like kind of like, I don't know, like festering, feverish ones.
Mm-hmm.
But I never saw any skin colored ones. I never saw any weird colors like blue or purple. But I really focused on the fact that I didn't see any like skin colored Nurgle. That would be so nasty. Because I remembered you painted what was it? You painted corn skin colored one time, and it looks so awful.
Oh, like, you're talking about the skull grinder or whatever it's called, that I can't remember what it's called. The thing that collects and stores skulls and then like shoots them out sometimes for corn.
Yeah, it looks so nasty.
That does look pretty disgusting. So that's what you want to do. You want to do like flesh colored, and then what about for all the running pustules and poxes and all that crap?
Like, I feel like they'd be normal, like normal, just like grossness, and have it all red right around them.
Yeah, like festering.
Mm-hmm.
I think I pick a paint scheme not quite that. Sometimes I'll say, oh, you know what? That really kind of should look like the box. Like the Cruel Boys, for instance. I am painting those to be almost exactly like the box art because the way that they play and the way that their lore is, it feels like they really should look like the box art. Some armies, I just don't care what the box art looks like. Like normal orcs, I was like, I don't care about the box art. I don't want to do like yellow orcs. That doesn't seem... It's not my brand, so to speak. So, and plus, I think just before that was when I painted up all those Gene Stealer cults, and those were all yellow.
Yeah, it's all yellow. It looks really cool.
It does look cool, but man, did that get old pretty quick. I will say that. I had a lot of fun weathering the different things and making them look nasty and funky. I don't think I want to do. Yeah, I don't think I want to do another yellow army just yet. Sometimes I'll, like the Cruel Boys, I'll do the box art. And then sometimes, like for my Sea Elves, for instance, not my Lumina, the Deepkin, I'll paint it up how I think that they might actually look. If they're underneath the ocean, well, a lot of sea creatures have really, really white bellies. And then they've got like watercolored skin. So that way when you look up, you don't see their bellies because, it's white. So that's what I did with them. And I thought it would be cool if I used the color shifting paint for their normal, like their over skins. At first I had it just this like really strong sea blue, and it looked very natural, but it didn't look quite as fantastic as I had wanted it to look. So I used that, and it kind of gave it a little bit of a magical twist on it.
And they are magical. So what about your Slaanesh? What do you think about painting them?
I kind of want to be excessive. When I was reading about them, they describe themselves, well, a lot of the Slaaneshi cults describe themselves as carnivals. And I thought that would be really cool because, like, say the lowest of the carnival could be like the jesters, and maybe do a little bit of motley with them and dress them in bright garish colors that really, really clash and, very Slaaneshi. But I kind of almost want them to bleed into one another. So I might have to use my airbrush to blend it in. I have a strong feeling that brown is going to be like my favorite color after this. But I also want to do stuff with some strong pinks, some really strong pinks, and purples, because purple bleeds into pink. But then I need to find colors that are on the other side of the spectrum.
So like oranges, yellows, kind of. I
guess maybe oranges and yellows.
Or even red, because red can bleed into pink.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Red could bleed into pink. So I don't know. I definitely want them to look really cool and really flashy and very Slaaneshi, just so over the top. So that's what I think I'm going to do for them. And I don't know what I'm going to do for their skin, but the most Slaaneshi excess, like the most excess that I have really ever seen came from, as far as skin tone goes, came from the movie 300, when Xerxes was being like lifted up on his palanquin and by all of those slaves around him. Didn't it just seem, did you watch 300?
I never actually did, no.
Okay, so we'll have to figure that out later, but he's held up on his palanquin by like all these slaves, and he's got like all this opulence around him, and it is just so crazy. So I think that I think I want that middle, maybe a little bit darker than Middle Eastern skin tone. That's just flawless skin. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
yeah,
absolutely flawless. And everything is going to look so over the top, just so very, very orderly, except for their clothes. Of course, their clothes are going to look really weird.
Well, over the top in a different sense.
Yep. So how do you like to do it? Do you like to paint a single model first and then jump in, or do you like to paint the whole army all at once, or do you like to paint like units one by one? How do you go about your painting an army? Like once let's say you've gotten the list together, you've gotten the units, and they're put together, how would you paint them?
Well, sometimes if it's something big, like a monster or a hero, I'd paint it by itself because, it deserves all that attention. But if we're going for like troops, I'd paint sometimes a unit at a time. If it's like 20 dudes, I'd paint a unit at a time. But if it's just I might paint it all together as well. I don't think I've ever had a chance where my entire army's been primed and ready at the exact same time. I don't know how it would work if I did that.
Would you like to paint an army like that, where everything is there, primed and ready, and then you just start and finish everything at the exact same time?
It would be nice, but I have a feeling, like, for example, a Great Unclean One, I'd probably paint him by himself and focus on him for a good couple of hours, or more than that, but like at a time.
So I actually love painting an entire army at the same time, as long as they have a lot of colors that will, you just have to go through model by model by model and look for those colors on the model. That's what I'm doing with my Cruel Boys now, as you heard earlier. And that's what I did with my Stormcast as well. I painted every single one at the same exact time. And it was an interesting way to go about doing an army, because you can definitely see the colors as they go on. First you're like, okay, well, all the skin is on. It doesn't look like a whole lot for all that I did. But then you see that once all the red goes on, you're like, oh, they're looking more and more painted. And then once all the brown goes on, you're like, now everything is looking painted. And then once the metal goes on, after that, it's just little details. And I'll go squad by squad or like model by model to do all the little details on each individual one. But I'll try to block in all the colors at once and do all of the shades all at once, things like that. I kind of like doing that with an army. Plus, it means that if I'm playing them, I don't have half my army that's like just completely, sprayed black, and then half my army is 100% painted. So each week that I come in, it looks a little more and more and more painted.
I will say it is a little odd when you have like a squad of dudes who's black and then the other ones are like fully painted or mostly painted. It would be nice to bring like levels to the table.
Yeah, definitely. So that brings me to the next thing. First playthroughs of the army. Do you like to go straight into the deep end with the rando at the local gaming store, or would you rather have somebody that you play against first?
Oh, I love going just head first straight into a game. A lot of people at High Tide I do know, so it's like it's not some random person, but like just being able to test it in a game that I would normally be playing all the time. It's pretty nice. You get to see some flaws in your strategy, not in the actual army itself.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of like that. For instance, when Alan and I played our game, it was my first time playing Cruel Boys, and I know I messed up one or two things, and it was his first time playing Slaanesh, and he messed up one or two things, and neither of us really had to feel bad, about getting a couple of rules incorrect, which you will do the first couple of times you play through an army, just because, there's so many rules that you need to remember, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was really nice having somebody that wouldn't judge me afterward and say, well, come on now, I definitely should have won because you cheated. I'm like, no. That's, nothing like that. It's not cheating. It's accidental. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that is the good part about playing against somebody that, and I feel like if I was going to play against somebody I know, I'd play against, somebody who's also kind of new to their army, so we're both learning at the same time.
Yeah, that was really nice. Having my first game with the Cruel Boys against Alan's army was real nice because I know I messed up one or two rules because it was pointed out to me later on by Conor, who is really good at Cruel Boys and knows their rules pretty much inside and out. So it was very nice to know that I wasn't going to be like chewed out by somebody. I'm also not really a huge proponent of spamming the same units. Just like, for instance, if you had 4 blocks of Mortec Guard and instead of like having, your horse guys or your...
Yeah, that would be interesting. Like a lot of that army is like little bitty units. Like my stalkers, for example, there's only 3 of them. They would be nasty if there were more, but it's kind of nice just to have that one unit that you put up there and they do a bunch of damage. But then they sort of die. It's a little bit of a glass cannon, but still, it's like that's a cool unit. Like your Deepkin, for example, you're talking about how you didn't like to play all eels.
Yeah, I hate that because everybody's like, oh, you should just play all eels. Like 6 times 3 eels, you just get 18 eels and that's it. And I'm like, well, there are many games that I would have lost if I had only had those 18 eels. I would have lost because I wouldn't have had enough guys on objectives. I would have lost because I wouldn't have been able to do enough damage, or I didn't have any ranged, or I didn't, for one reason or another, I just would not have had enough of whatever it is. I like to say that variety is the spice of painting life. I don't want to paint 18 eels that are the exact same thing. I want to paint alapexes and a turtle and some Namarti. You know what I mean? I want to paint everything in the range.
Yeah, I had a hard enough time painting like 20 Mortec Guard. I don't know if I could do like 4 blocks of them.
Yeah, like you did 40, right?
Yeah, I did 40.
So imagine doing another 40. I like having different units because a lot of people will say, oh, well, those units didn't perform well. This unit didn't do well in this game. But then in another game, you might see that they do exceedingly well against a different opponent. And you're like, well, if I had taken them out and just had like spanned the same halfway decent unit, then they might not have been good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they're different strengths against different things. That's why you have a variety. So even if one does not quite as great, you have another one that might do better.
Yeah, definitely. And when I was making, for instance, the Gargant list, I'm looking at Gargants, and I actually really wanted Gargants for Christmas, but I'm going to get them. But it's okay. One of the things that I didn't like about that list when I was making it was that everything was not exactly the same, but everything was very much the same. They were kind of like every unit did everything all the time. They were all very killy. They were all not very fragile. They all had tons of wounds. They held on to objectives well. They all, you know what I mean? They're kind of the same. Next, how many points do your armies normally consist of when you build them? What do you like to do 1,000 first, or do you like to do 500 first? Do you go straight for 2,000? How do you like to do it?
I usually build up over time. I start out with usually around 500, like 750, so I have a little bit of variety. It depends on what I get. But then I slowly build up over time, buy some more, buy some chunkier units.
Mm-hmm. Or sometimes very, very nice individuals like Blake will give you some really, really nice units.
Yeah, the shout out to him. That was so nice.
Yes, thank you so much for giving her those Morghast Archai. Those things are such a pain in the butt to put together, and somehow he managed to keep his sanity and put together, 6 of them?
6 of them.
And then gave them to her. So thank you so much. Oof, let me tell you, she uses them a lot. They're very good.
And I just finished painting them.
Yes, you did. Yeah, you did. I like to make 2,000 point armies. I like to just say 2,000 points and let's see what is in this army. And then I buy all the stuff for it. And then when somebody inevitably says, well, let's play 1,000 point battle, then I'll say, okay, well, I have got this stuff and let's see what I can make 1,000 points out of. Or 750 or 1,500 or whatever it is. But at least I have it. And then in my 2,000 points, what I'll typically do, I'll make a 2,000 point list and then I'll add some big centerpiece model to it afterward, like an Archaon or like a Nagash or something like that, just so that way I have whatever centerpiece model I want without having to take up, half of my army the entire time. What about you? Do you like getting the large centerpiece models or the large god style models?
I actually haven't had much experience with getting those models like myself, like buying them. Blake did give, it was...
he gave you an Archon the Black, too.
That was pretty nice.
You haven't played with him yet?
I have not.
You should. He's pretty fun. But I noticed you didn't ask for, nor have you even thought about Nagash.
Yeah, I don't particularly think about like those large models. I do enjoy, like, it's fun playing with big models, but I don't typically get them just because I never think about it until I'm like, that guy looks kind of cool, but I have so much other to paint.
Yeah, you've got a whole bunch of other stuff to paint, and then all of a sudden you're offering to paint a Lord Discordant, and
Hey now, it's different.
oh, how's that different?
I mean, I'm giving it back. I'm not keeping it.
She likes to paint CSM trim, you guys. Let me tell you, I don't understand what's wrong with her. So let's say, so now we've gotten the army, we've put it together, we've built it, we've painted it. How long until you are thinking to yourself, oh, next army time? How long do you usually play with that army?
It varies. I usually start a new army once I've completely finished that army, and then a little bit after. For example, I'm not starting my Nurgle until this Christmas, so I've got some time where I can just play with these and not have to worry about painting them, be finished.
Oh yeah, you can go back to your ogres and maybe finish those guys up, huh?
Oh no.
Yeah. Talk about hobby promises, hobby goals. So I kind of will get attracted to an army while I'm in the middle of doing an army sometimes. As happened with the Cruel Boys, I was attracted to their models while painting the Stormcast ones. And then painting the rest of the Stormcast they weren't a slog because I finished them all kind of at the same time. But then after that, we watched The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings all the way through. So I got this in my head that I wanted to do a dwarf army because, that was really cool. I was like, yeah, I want to do dwarfs. Just tons of dwarfs. So I bought a bunch of dwarfs, and then about halfway through painting them up, I was like, oh, I don't want to paint up any more of these dang dwarfs. But I did. I got all the dwarfs painted, and now I'm starting on the Cruel Boys, and now I'm like halfway done the Cruel Boys, and I'm looking at these Slaanesh models like, I want to paint more of these up. But I don't know, painting the Cruel Boys hasn't been bad or anything. I just tend to have hobby ADD, I guess.
I do the same thing sometimes. For example, the Nurgle, I've been thinking about it for a while. It's actually been a little seed in the back of my brain since Elaine got her box and wanted to start it. And I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't start it. She's starting it, And then it kind of got stuck back there.
One might say it's festering inside of you.
Yes. I remembered it. And when you were asking about things for Christmas, and I was like, maybe. Just maybe.
Maybe, just maybe. Yeah, so what happened was we got my youngest daughter who wanted to put together stuff and paint a Start Collecting Magotkin of Nurgle box. So, actually, there are models in there that have not been put together yet of Nurgle that you could, put together and paint before Christmas if you got all your stuff.
Maybe, possibly.
Yeah, and if you weren't, how you have everything done for your current army, and if you didn't have that Lord Discordant,
but he's my practice model. I'm painting him fleshy too.
You're fleshy too. That's so disgusting. Oh, poor Blake. Blake, I'm real sorry about this, buddy. You're about to get back a flesh metal creature of indescribable nastiness. I actually I grabbed a model to paint too, and I think I might start on that later on this evening after we're done here. It's a brain monster with tentacles.
Yeah, I think it's a D&D mini, but I'm not exactly sure.
No, it's not. I don't think it's D&D. It might be, but I really don't think so. I thought it was some other game, but I'm going to paint it up looking real funky.
Nasty definitely little brain tentacle dude.
Yep. Sean will really like him. It's Sean's model. Hopefully he will anyway. If he doesn't, then I'll feel really bad. No, I think he will.
I don't think you're not painting it all weird and wacky. It's going to be nasty.
No, it's not going to be. It's not going to be weird and wacky. Although I might do a little bit of color shift for the tentacles.
Ooh.
I might do what I did with my Deepkin, where it's kind of natural, a little bit looking underneath, like kind of light, and then over top is a dark color with color shift over it.
Yeah, make them all look all.
It's not incredibly detailed or anything. It's not like it's a huge model. It's
just a little brain with tentacles.
Yeah, I should be able to do something really cool looking with it though. And I still need to paint more of my space orcs too. I was actually talking to my brother about that because he was asking. So his girlfriend the girl that he's dating, their family has a guy who's into 40K, like her brother is into it, and nobody ever knows what to get him for Christmas. And so Bob's like, oh, Bobby's my brother. He goes, we'll just text Matt. He'll know exactly what to, do. And so I was like, okay, well, what armies does he play? And they're like, well, he just started orcs, like 40k orcs. And I said, okay, well, can't go wrong with all the new stuff. That's all really good. So I told him what to get. And then they were asking me about paints. And I was like, well, I don't know what paints he has or what paints he needs, but I would never be upset if somebody got me a technical paint. You know what I mean? So I told him to get like Typhus Corrosion, Blood for the Blood God, stuff like that. Because you could always use more technical paint, right?
Yeah, those paints that you don't know you need until you use it and you're like, oh.
Yeah, stuff that you're like, oh, that's really cool. Or, I told him, I said, get him a thing of Lamian Medium or a thing of, Airbrush Flow Improver, whatever he can use that won't go bad and we'll always be able to use it. And I told him that he could probably always use like some plastic glue, or just super glue. And then what did I tell? Oh, he also plays Imperial Fists. And I was like, okay, well, probably he could do with like Blade Guard veterans, the ones with shield and sword. Everybody likes those. They're really good. Hopefully he enjoys all the things that he gets.
Yeah, he probably will.
And I think they got him a kill rig, and that kill rig is really, really big. I cannot believe how big that thing is. So back to starting this army, I decided that I wanted to do a Slaanesh army, and most of the reason why is because I looked at them and they had such amazing models. I love that those Slaaneshi cults are sometimes seen as carnivals. It makes me want to paint some of the lower caste in motley or almost like they're jesters of some sort. Like the Blissbarb archers are supposed to be the lowest of the low, and they like run around cavorting and shooting things in the name of Slaanesh and essentially like trying to be noticed. But then sometimes they're like brave enough to try to tame a seeker, like the little demon mounts. And so the Blissbarb seekers use their mouth poison as like poison for their arrows. And that's why they get the mortal wounds.
They just swab it like they're doing some DNA testing.
Yeah, they're like, hey, come here. You little COVID test over here.
Ew.
That's nasty. I definitely want Dextressa and Sinessa, and I definitely want at least one Keeper of Secrets, because both of those models are awesome. They look like peacocks. And Keeper of Secrets just looks amazing. The new model. I always like that new model. Like I want to paint it I've already painted a bunch of Daemonettes of Slaanesh, and they're all purple, like dark purple skin. And then their hair is all white, like really, really white.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen them before.
Yeah, so that's how I want to paint the Keeper of Secrets. And that's probably also how I want to paint Dextressa and Sinessa, at least their skin. I like that a lot. And then I got one of those Helga Cloven Hoofs from the Made to Order stuff. I didn't know if I would want to do that, but when I looked at it and I said, you know what, that kind of looks like a Lord of Pain. And wouldn't it be cool to have two Lords of Pain and one of them is like a male and one of them is a female? Like, she definitely looks like she could be a Slaanesh, kind of hero. All I really need to do is just kind of, I don't know, I'll probably alter her in some way, shape, or form. Maybe I'll give her a new head or something. I'll have to look at my Mirmadish Painbringers and see what kind of heads I can swap hers out for. Although she's got a cool horn coming out the side of her head, so.
Maybe just yoink the horn.
Yeah, I could, I guess. Or maybe the whole top of her head and have it be like a half helm. And then, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Frankenstein it.
Yeah, that would be nasty, wouldn't it? And I'm also going to buy an actual Lord of Pain because that model does look cool. I just don't want two of the same model. And then maybe I'll have like a twin thing going on in my army. I know that Justin is doing a twin base for his elf army. And so wouldn't it be cool to do like a Slaanesh twist of that? Like take what he's doing and twist it so that it's nasty and disgusting and terrible and no good and very bad and like excessive, mostly just excessive.
Excessively no good, very bad?
Yes. That's what my Slaanesh army is going to be. It's going to be this twisted version of what he's doing with his elves. And I want to get at least one of all the new mortal units. Although I want the box set that's coming out. The one that's coming out this Saturday. I definitely want to get that because that has almost, one or two of each of the new units. Also, I'll get some Blissbarb Seekers and stuff like that. They're good for their ability to do some mortal wounds, and they've got a lot of mobility. And they kind of generate good summoning points. I think that summoning is definitely, it is both better and worse for this army than it was before. I think it's much better in the way that it's generated. It's much better in the way that you use them. and much less excessive. So like I don't have to worry about buying like 3 freaking Keepers of Secrets or anything like that. And I don't have to worry about my opponent fearing 3 Keepers of Secrets coming out on the table. But it's also really nice. I can generate these points in a way that conducive to how the army works. Doing mortal wounds, like here and there, splitting up my shots, just being a general pain in the butt, right?
Yeah.
The Slick Blade Seekers are kind of nice, but they've got low armor save for like a unit that's supposed to be in close combat. So they may just have to be a style choice. Although I love that they have glaives. They've got these glaives, and man, do I love mounted units with glaives.
It just makes sense.
And of course, I'll definitely have to have some Mirmadish Painbringers because they do work for an army. They have a decent armor save, the built-in +1 in combat. They do mortals in addition to having 2 wounds each. It's kind of interesting because they're supposed to be these like stoic and beautiful warriors with this like enormous amounts of pride. And I like that their initiation ritual consists of some like really weird trials, like Slaanesh style trials, with the last trial being take a buttload of drugs and then fight dudes until you win. So they're like hallucinating and their vision is all doubled and they have to like fight things. And it's not just a fighting trial. It also has distractions and temptations. So that's kind of cool, right?
Sounds pretty nasty.
I know. So, and then afterwards, they're supposed to be these like prideful, beautiful warriors. And first I wasn't going to paint them white, but I might have to paint their armor white just because of that. I mean, they're although white's kind of bland. I don't know. Maybe I'll
could do a nasty white.
Nasty white. I don't know. They're just, when I hear stoic and prideful, I hear like essentially that's the paint scheme that was described there.
Or like light blue wouldn't be terrible.
I guess I could do them in purple. That's regal, right?
Purple is regal. Lavender.
Maybe lavender, but that deep rich purple though, that like Mago's purple color. And of course, eventually I do want to pick up a Glutus or Skellion. Have you seen that guy?
I have not.
Take a look at him while I'm talking about him. He's really mean and he is really cool. I just love the monstrous things that are pulling his chariot because they have like one arm that's this big old claw. It's totally Slaanesh-y. And he kind of reminds me of like a AOS version of Greasius Goldfinger. It's said that he has gorged on nations. And I wrote here that I bet you there's a bunch of pull my finger jokes in his army. He's this big fat guy. It's like he's enormously fat, sultan looking like guy. He's kind of dressed like a genie on this palanquin being pulled by monstrosities with like, it's disgusting. He used to be this really skinny and really like underfed individual who was part of this gang that infiltrated a temple and then stole this golden grain from the temple. But then he was so hungry and impatient that he ate it instead of like selling it and then I guess eating all the things that he could make from the profits. He ate the actual grain and it made him pretty insane. It made him like hungry for all kinds of weird stuff. And he can't like satiate his hunger on normal things. He has to have more and more and more outlandish things to satiate his hunger with. I also think that messing around with and destroying sacred relics in temples, that's how the ogres got into their predicament. So maybe this has like some sort of a little bit of a mirror to how the ogres got their ravenous hunger.
Yeah, they're always hungry.
So I'm wondering about that. So he would beg, borrow, and steal anything he could eat just to have like new stuff and more what do you call it? Like more weird things. Like he would spend all of his money on these weird dishes just so that way he thought maybe they were savory enough to control his hunger. And then one day he was like going crazy in this alley, this like back alley after he had spent all his money on food that didn't satiate him. And he found the corpse of a dude that was all rotten in the alley. And he was like, well, time to eat that dude. He finally found that when he was feasting on this corpse that it satiated his hunger slightly. And a demon came to him and made this agreement with him. Continue to eat the most succulent of meals like this, then it would satiate his hunger. So get this. This guy is in Hysh of all places, the realm of light, going around with his carnival, his menagerie of disgusting, very, very obvious Slaaneshi worshippers looking for, he looks for mages to eat in cannibalistic rituals. So would you go around, Hish looking for mages to eat? That just sounds really ballsy, right?
Yeah, that's like, you gotta have some like nerves of steel.
I know, he uses it to satiate his dark cravings. And then even worse, his like rumors about him spread throughout Hish. And so all of these seekers and all these other Slaaneshi worshippers, they bring him things to eat, like weird dishes to try to satiate his hunger. And so now he's got these demons that follow his carnival around because they glut themselves on the tormented souls that they can consume around them.
That's nasty.
I really want him. He's cool.
He looks cool. I'm looking at him right now.
Right? Isn't he just corpulent and disgusting? Does he look like a fat genie?
Yeah, he's all dressed up in genie, and he's got these like weird things pulling his chariot.
Yeah, those are human beings. Now, I'm debating heavily on whether I want Sigvald, whether I want to buy him or not. On the one hand, might not ever use him. I have very fond memories of Sigvald because I played through an entire campaign of Total War Warhammer with Sigvald. It was actually my first absolutely 100% playthrough. And I didn't auto-resolve a single battle while scourging the world that was of every single race and every single town and every single everything with him. Sigvald took part in every single battle, and he murdered everything. And at the end of it, it was just him and ruins.
That's just, wow.
That was hundreds of hours of playthrough to do that, by the way. And it was amazing. Also, he kind of had really good quests where they wrote his speeches in this fantastic sibilant manner. All of his speeches use, I can't remember the type of poetry where every word starts with the same letter, but that's what he did. So all of his speeches would be him just saying the same letter over and over again in each one of the...
An alliteration.
Yes, they're alliterations. When he's trying to get his silver slash, the sword that he uses, he says, "Sickly, sinful spectacles stand, shuffle, shamble, and saunter shamelessly in mine scandalized sight. I suggest a solution." I love it. And it goes on. It's like, surely such sedition should sour and succumb to Sigvald, the salacious, scandalous, and sensational servant of Slaanesh. Son of succubi, scion of sordid acts, and slayer of squalid serfs. See how I stroll, stride, swagger, and swirl, spin, slash, and stab at stupid, senseless scum. Soon they shall swoon, shall seek solace and death from sundry torments wrought on them by my strategic, severing, scintillating shower of shimmering strikes. I love it. Send for the sword, summon Silver Slash. I love that. That was such a good, like, I can imagine him speaking in alliteration the entire time, like all the time that he speaks.
That's him.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yes.
That'd be so cool. I feel like I almost have to get him and paint him up really nicely. So that way, if somebody asks for it, play him. And I'll make up a little speech beforehand. That's all in alliteration.
Just how confident you are. Just like,
oh, yes. So that's so. Now, I didn't know if I wanted to get any Symbaresh Twin Souls because they're not honestly that great. But I will say they do look cool, and they've got a kind of a cool story behind them because they're these warriors that don't think that they're really good enough to like make it in the army. They don't think they'll be able to rise to prominence. So they crave this power, and therefore they allow themselves to be possessed by a demon of Slaanesh by ritualistically offering up the souls of 6 elves. So they ritualistically offer up these 6 elven souls, and then they carve all over themselves to like welcome the demon in. And that feels very Slaaneshi to me. Like, I love the thought that these guys like couldn't quite make it, couldn't quite hack it. So they're like, let's invite a demon in and see what happens. And like some of them, very, very few of them conquer their demon and use it to rise to prominence. And then most of them just end up like as gibbering soul sliver lunatics trapped in their own bodies and like mindlessly fighting. What I also like is that over time, it kind of deletes their id and they begin to speak in the third person and they get like this dissonance between self. They don't really think of themselves as a person anymore. Can you imagine going through life in third person view?
That sounds complicated.
And they kind of start ignoring wounds that absolutely they should not ignore, like taken in battle and stuff.
She's like, I didn't need that arm anyways.
And I think I will paint up some of these. I'll have them like they'll have hellacious wounds on them. The rest of the army will be immaculate, but for the most part. But these guys are going to have these awful wounds all over them, I think.
That person that I vaguely recognized didn't need their arm anyways.
Yeah, right? Can you imagine that? It's awful. Speaking of which, when Total War Warhammer 3 comes out, I think the first campaign that I'm going to do is definitely going to be a Slaanesh campaign, like a solo campaign. And I'm going to have to pick Sigvald and do the same if Sigvald is one of the characters that you can pick. And I'm going to do that. I'm just going to go through the whole campaign without auto-resolving any battles. And I'm going to murder everything in sight.
Excessively.
Yes, it will be very excessive. So that's about it for this particular segment. I hope you guys enjoyed talking a little bit about Slaanesh. I know that I'm really excited to start off with the Slaanesh stuff. Are you excited to start with your Maggotkin of Nurgle?
I'm super excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get these and put them together. But that's not the fun part. The fun part is going to be painting them.
Yeah, although they will go together a lot easier than your little bone boys did. I have a feeling because it's not going to be like, oh, attach this little one tiny bone of an arm here to this little socket. It'll be more like, fit these two massive bellies together. So I think it'll be a little easier for you than the other army.
I would hope there are not tiny, spindly, bony arms.
Nope, definitely not. When we get the Maggotkin of Nurgle, it should come out. It says it was supposed to come out in December, so I'm guessing it's going to come out sometime next couple of weeks, maybe?
Hopefully.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong on December, but I don't think I am. But as soon as it comes out, I will be getting it and we'll be reading it and we're definitely going to do a show on it because I know there are little things in there that we'll probably be able to pick apart and talk about in Maggotkin. I'm excited. In fact, you're going to help me do a lot of the research for that one because that's like hours of research and reading and stuff.
Yeah, and that's my army, so like.
Yep. I don't know if I'm going to do another 40k army anytime soon though.
Me either.
Nothing's really like reaching out to me. When the orcs came out, I was like, oh, that looks really cool. And I got a bunch of them and I'm painting them up. They're pretty cool. They're fine. Nothing wrong with them, but I don't think nothing's really reaching out to me, but maybe eventually Dark Eldar. Because I have some, and some of them are half painted up, and maybe I'll do that eventually.
Yeah, nothing, like you said, nothing's really like caught my eye in 40k. I've seen plenty of epic paints, in the store, but nothing I would actually think about. Oh, would I really enjoy playing that?
Yeah, you have to ask yourself, hey, am I going to enjoy that? Although, you know what army you should do for 40k? Custodes.
Ooh, Custodes.
You don't know what they are?
I know vaguely what they are.
Well, it's a really low model count army, so it's got that going for it. They are incredibly powerful, like to the point of just being almost eye-rollingly unfair.
I did hear that.
They also are good at every single thing that they do.
That's also another thing I've heard.
And unlike your Tyranids, they have really good armor saves and really good invulnerable saves. Every one of them does.
I mean,
they're kind of like ogres with a really good armor save.
That doesn't sound terrible. I was thinking about shifting from Tyranids to GSC cults.
Oh yeah, GSC. But you could do that with just playing them, because I'll get the GSC book when it comes out. I mean, you could just play mine. I've got tons of GSC cults.
Yeah, I don't have to necessarily buy an army to play that. So.
Yeah, there's no real reason to buy that army, because I just have so many of them. I probably have 4,000 points of GSC cult.
And most of them are fully painted beautifully.
No, all of them are. I painted all my... Oh, wait. There are one or two... maybe 3 vehicles that I still have to paint.
Yeah, but there's a couple of vehicles.
That was just stuff that I got kind of later on or stuff that didn't really fit. And I was like, I'll paint it up sometime. That's what we're interested in, and that's what we're going to be doing. So that's what y'all are going to hear about in the next couple of months. And various topics. I don't know. We're going to have all kinds of... I have a little sheet now where I've put down all of the podcast topics that anytime I think of one, I actually thought of one last night while I was asleep. Can you believe that?
That's a little scary.
I know, right? All right, so we have Conor here, and we're going to talk a little bit about how he got into this, and we're also going to talk about the orcs because he plays the new orc Warclans, and he is really good, let me tell you.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
Not one thing.
Not one thing. We're not even going to talk about the books. We're just gonna.
We're just gonna play around, and then talk about. Look here. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, whatever that was.
That's 13 seconds. It's probably going the little.
Yeah, right.
Or like happy birthday.
Or one of those like spinner noises.
Yeah, it's just like a vuvuzela.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't even know if I said that right.
I don't think so, but whatever.
So how'd you get into Age of Sigmar?
So I started actually a year ago. I started painting about a year and a half ago, and I started playing a year ago. I originally bought I think the first thing I bought for real, like I had like little sets as a kid, like a Space Marine and a little Tau box, but I didn't know what I was doing with them. I was just like, oh, these are fun toys, and then I was like, oh, I have to build these? No. But the first like actual set I invested in was a start collecting box for the greenskins.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, this is a tragic opening to my Warhammer career here. So I was living in Virginia, and the store, I bought them originally for Pathfinder. I just needed models of orcs, and there was a bunch in the box, and they were like on pigs and stuff. It was so cool. And I started painting them, but I like bought the Battletome, the second edition Orcs Battletome at the same time, because I'm like, maybe I'll get into it. And I asked the guy, are these models in this book? And he's like, yes. And straight up lied to me. Or maybe he didn't know. I don't know.
Probably just didn't know, honestly.
Probably just didn't know. And when I got back and started building, like did all the boys and then the orcs, and then I realized that the wagon that comes with it was missing a full sprue.
Oh, yeah, the chariot?
Yeah, the chariot.
Chariot.
The orc chariot had a duplicate of like half of the sprue. So there was the other half that was missing. And I brought it back to the store, and the guy was like, oh, no, we can't refund you. You already built the models.
Really?
You built the models. We can't take these back. You can get in touch with GW to see if they can get you the sprue to fix this problem. And I got in touch with the representative, and they're like, oh, no.
Total lie, by the way. Complete and total lie. I had that exact thing happen to me when I bought a Start Collecting Seraphon set, and it was missing the sprue for the rider, but it had sprues enough to make two Carnosaurs.
Yeah.
And immediately Rebecca was like, oh, no, let me take that back. Here, I'll get you another one. We'll just send it right back to GW.
Yeah.
This has never happened before, but we'll definitely send it right back. And I was like, no, I'll just buy another one and keep this Carnosaur. Thank you. I'll keep this second Carnosaur.
Bonus dino, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, he was like, no, we don't. We can't take it. You built the models, but here's the number for a GW rep, and you can get in touch and see if they can get you the sprue. And GW said no, because by that time the box had been discontinued.
Yeah,
it's super old. Like not I think it was still on the app, like the AOS 2 app, but it was like legends because they weren't even in the book.
Yeah,
and they're like, we're not getting you a wagon.
No, what are you thinking?
So I really wanted it.
What an unfortunate start to your career, by the way.
It gets worse. Buckle up. Because I was, at this point, we had like moved to Maryland now. I was looking into like, the store was like planning on, High Tide, was planning on like doing game nights and stuff. So I wanted to like get an army going because I wanted to try this out. And so I doubled down on greenskins. Not only did I find a single orc chariot on eBay that I could like build, I also found a second Start Collecting box.
Oh God, the same one that stupid greenskins one?
The same stupid greenskins one. And I bought two like lots of like 10 orc boys.
Oh,
so
no.
I just doubled down on something that I should not have done.
And they were so bad. They were like 4s and 4s, no rend, 1 damage.
And you needed like 20 of them for them to like get an extra attack or whatever.
And they were still like 140 points for 10.
Yeah, and I had all the rules, so I thought I could play with them, and I didn't realize. And they were like on the app, so I'm like, yeah, these will work. I can make an army with these guys. And You can't. And it sucks.
No.
And so I only had the original group of 10. I actually made 3 chariots. So I kind of
3 chariots.
Yeah,
wow.
so the one that had the duplicate, I made up the missing sprues with these other chariots that I bought. So I had 3 chariots and 10 boar boys and all these freaking orc boys, and I had magnetized their arms. I was putting so much work into
It's just the worst thing.
the worst. And
I feel so bad.
I only had the original 10 and the boar boys ready, so I brought those, and I met Justin, and he graciously lended me some of his iron jaws as I was getting started and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so hold on. I actually have a little bit of an insert here because I remember this exact thing. Because Justin came over to me and he says, Matt, I feel so bad. This poor guy is trying to get into Age of Sigmar, but some idiot sold him the new the old Start Collecting box for the Orc Boys. And I go, ooh, that's so bad. And he goes, yeah, that's so bad. And I was like, well, maybe we can help him out or something. And Justin's like, yeah, I'll let him use my army. And I was like, yeah, I'll bring up. At the time, I actually was using orcs, I think. So it was hard for me to say, here, use the army that I'm using in this.
Yeah.
But I remember Justin was like, yeah, I'll let him use my orcs, and maybe he won't struggle so much.
And then I kept bringing my orcs too, and I kept building lists with combined of greenskins and iron jaws, because I wanted to get something out of this investment. I was like, I will use these things. So also on this, when I started coming here, when I met Rebecca for the first time, she kind of overheard my plight of this stupid chariot wagon thing, and she got in touch with the representative for this store, and she's like, we'll comp you a model.
That's awful nice of her.
It was so nice of her.
Awesome.
So I got a weird knob shaman, because it was kind of the same.
Such a good shaman too.
Yeah, it was a really fun model. So she just comped me that, and I started playing and stuff, and it was a struggle. It was. The only players were Justin, his brother, and his mom. And there was Jim also, but I hadn't played against him yet. And I went up against Justin's brother with his Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
Oh no, that was when Bone Reapers were just broken.
Just so good. And I don't think I brought any of my models. I was like, I need to start using the Iron Jaws. And I had the Maw Crusher too. And I was just an idiot, and I threw it forward. It's it's a big dragon. It's gonna crush this thing.
It'll do, no problem.
And it got churned up and made so many little of those Mortek Guard. And I was painting a lot more of my stuff, and I was bringing them in, and the breaking point for me was the Lumineth Realm Lords.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, you've had a rough beginning to this hobby.
I have had a terrible start, because Justin brought all of his new shiny toys. None of them were painted. They were just built that day, and he's like, I want to play with these things, and I'm like, okay, sure. No problem. And I sent my little, not even Iron Jaws. I brought the spearmen, because I had
You brought the orc spearmen?
I brought all of the ones that I own, because I'm like,
I'm gonna charge your pike guys.
Yeah, and
Justin's
I actually did a number on one group of his wardens. I got down. I got down to 3 of them.
Well, luck is a horse to ride.
It was almost gone, and I felt so confident. And then he's like, "Oh, by the way."
Oh, yeah. You take my battle shock, and every one of your orcs just
gone, and
just disappeared.
What? And he's like, "Yeah, that's the rules for the Cathaller." And I'm like, "Huh?
How dare you?
How dare you?" And it was a group of 20 or maybe even 30 of them. And they just got churned out. So
Poor
it was, and that was the last game that I played before we kind of had this hiatus of Thanksgiving, when the store kind of closed down game nights and stuff again, because
COVID.
COVID and stuff. And so there was this break, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna set those guys aside, and we're gonna invest heavily in Iron Jaws now.
Nice.
So I bought a bunch of start collecting boxes, and I got a bunch of stuff for Christmas, and
Came back with a vengeance?
Came back with a vengeance, and I bought some Bone Splitters too. I fell in love with the Bone Splitters. I think they are...
Those models are nice.
I think they're my favorite out of the Warclans, just aesthetically, but rules-wise, they are also garbage.
Yeah, they are very much garbage.
They are so
They're very
hard,
terrible.
and it's so much fun. Like, they used to be cool in the second edition, but like it just kind of broke my heart to see what happened in the third edition. And then I kind of felt like I was in this loop with the changes that have come out in 3.0, just a loop of, man, everything I have is
garbage.
It's garbage now, and I have to invest in like another army of cruel boys.
You're like, oh, I've got these iron jaws now, and they're like, oh, by the way, the brutes are the only thing that's good now.
Yeah.
And you're like, no.
Yeah, and I had like blocks of Ard boys, and I only have one group of brutes, and then they're like, oh yeah, Ard boys,
they suck.
They suck.
Boo.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that's like the nature of this game. Like, stuff gets better, stuff gets worse. But like having a whole other like sub faction released, is like, oh, come on.
And the companion that they set, kind of released at the same time, the Stormcast Eternals, they made everything else like really good from the very beginning. Even like Liberators are good again now.
Yeah, we talked about that when the Dominion box came out, and it's just kind of like a. I love the game. I really do. I've been having a lot of fun with it, but it has been a rocky road, to be sure. Mm-hmm. And I typically played Big Wa, and I loved it. And like, man, oh man, could you get on like a steamroll with the Big Wa? But I don't feel like it's there anymore, and I'm trying to figure out why. Maybe it's just like stuff has been retooled, and units their roles are changed and stuff. But I crushed when I played the Big Wa. Like when we were the League, I started. It was kind of a weird period where the core rules book for third edition was out.
Yep.
But not the new Battletome.
For like 3 months.
For 3 months it was out, and so I was playing with the old Orc rules, and then once it came out, like, the Big Wa was not what I thought it was anymore, and like I don't think I like won another game playing the Big Wa.
Aww.
And it was fine. But yeah, I was gonna talk about that more with like the narrative stuff. But yeah, it's been fun. I really enjoy like the painting and everything, and yeah. I've been having a fun time with AOS 3. I've come to love it, but it was a rough start.
You've had to like bite your tongue and bite your tongue and just
yeah, and there's just been some choices of like the new book that I don't understand.
Yeah, the Cruel Boys though, they feel very strong in your hands.
It's also an aspect of like the new edition that I'm not used to yet is like battle tactics and stuff.
Yeah, I always kind of forget them.
Yeah, a lot of people here don't play with them. Like, a lot of the matches that I've played are just open play, where we don't have to, like, worry about that. And, like, I don't think I've ever played a game with, like, the Mystic Terrain rules. And
I really want to do that.
I'm always like, do you guys want to play in the Realm of Gur? And they're like, it's kind of another level that I don't want to keep track of. And I'm like, okay.
I'll play a game in the Realm.
I would love to.
Heck, we can even play with a grand strategy.
Yeah,
how about that?
Yeah, how about
add
that?
Another level of complexion, and we can play with terrain rules. We can make some like all kinds of. Yeah, we could definitely do that.
But the battle tactics have been interesting to like kind of wrap my head around. And I was talking with our friend Jim about it, and he is so into them. Like, he builds his lists around how to complete battle tactics. Like he was like reading all these articles and stuff about like victory points and like how key it is to like build around the battle tactics and stuff.
Yeah, he was talking to me about that.
Yeah.
I remember him saying, like, he was talking about, I want to learn how to get more points. I have to like really focus on this. And I said, hey, are you looking to like become a tournament gamer or something?
Yeah.
And he's like, no. I just want to make sure that I'm scoring points during a game because he was telling me so many games he would think that he won except for they'd gotten more battle tactics and that would be pretty much it. They'd be tied otherwise.
Yeah. So he's been on
sense.
and like it's kind of like influencing how I like have started building against him too, because I know he's going for that. But it's really like something you have to like start factoring in when you're like on the list builder, which...
And I know what you're talking about, and I feel like the way that I build lists is exactly inimical to getting those done, which is to say I try not to take more than one of anything. So
Yeah.
I know that I can do anything at any particular given time as long as I have a little bit of ability, a little bit of staying power, a little bit of stopping power, a hammer, an anvil, something big that I can throw across the board and mash, maybe a little magic, whatever it is.
Yeah. And the changes to command points has been interesting. I like it a lot. I like that they go away and that...
use them or lose them.
Yeah, use them or lose them, and like you really have to like think about what do you want to trade on. Like, I need to get rid of this, I need to save this, and the modifier cap on stuff also makes it kind of interesting.
Yeah, but I'll tell you the reason why. So the reason why that came about, the modifier cap, I can remember back when we were playing AOS 1 in circa 2016 at Nova, the person who won the tournament did it because they were stacking negative to hit modifiers with Neferata and Gang in an undead army.
Yeah.
And so she literally would just run this big mob around that you couldn't hit at all with anything. And then she'd murder anything that the person, well, obviously, they would go after stuff that would be able to shoot them or stuff that would be able to magic them down. And then after that, they just had the board with impunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you...
So this makes sense, this change.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that I've struggled with the 3rd edition is, honestly, it's coherency. I always forget. Like,
yeah, me too.
I always forget that that's a thing, just because it wasn't really as strict, I think, in the second edition. I mean, I only played the 2nd edition for like 1 to 2 months, so I'm not as like versed as probably everyone else here. But it's always just like my opponent's always like, oh, you can't pull them like that.
Can't do that, buddy.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. So, yeah, the battle tactics are also kind of like the double-edged sword that I'm dealing with.
Wait until you have somebody that doesn't tell you that and then just lets you pull from wherever, and then at the end of the turn, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, half that squad goes away.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so... But it has been really fun, and like playing against like people like you and Jim and Justin have helped me a whole bunch, because I honestly, my only tactic beforehand was ABC, and like the new edition and like how orcs work now is just
you can't do it that way.
Yeah, you can't.
You'll lose the mission.
You will absolutely lose every time.
That's when Alan and I were playing the other day. He all but tabled me, but he just couldn't make up the points afterward because he was ABC, and I was like, okay, well, I could also ABC and get into a big scrum in the middle, or I could feed you my models piecemeal but still retain control of the points and then still score. And then by the 4th or 5th round, he was just down so many points that he, even though I only had I only had my Cruel Boy with that big old crossbow left. That was all I had left, but it didn't matter. I was like,
no. One thing I really have liked is narrative play. I have absolutely loved it. So I know we had kind of like interesting takes on it for like the store league. In that like it wasn't like a kind of or a quick process.
No, it definitely wasn't.
No, the Excel sheet that Justin made, thank you, Justin, has been awesome, and it's been really fun to like it was fun to come home after the games and like kind of see the progression of your army. And not a lot of people like played narrative at the end of the league, so like with the narrative rules and stuff, they're just like, oh, I'm going to play, whatever, because I want to use these models. So the whole, like, I know the casualties and stuff was really penalizing to people. But when they weren't playing with those rules, I loved it a lot, because like, yeah, sure, that unit is taking wounds and stuff, and they didn't do good, but we're not playing narrative, so that doesn't really affect me. So I kind of got out of like I got all the good parts and like none of the bad parts with narrative.
It's not a bad thing.
And I was like, I had this journal actually after the game that we played, where it was your dwarves, not Dwarden, dwarves versus orcs and Sylvaneth. I started writing like little like stories about each battle for the rest of the time that we were doing the narrative stuff, and it was really fun to like like kind of invest points and stuff. And like at work, I would just be like looking at the spreadsheet because it just looks like a spreadsheet.
By the way, he means after work when he has to stay at work just to make sure, like at, you know, 6 or more.
No, I was actively looking at Warhammer stuff at work. So
I feel you. Sometimes the temptation is there. Right?
But it was really fun to like kind of see the renown and get these abilities for your units and stuff, which I desperately want to play someone with narrative because I have like all of these really cool abilities now and I can't use them. And
well, you can always use them in a game against me. I'll always let you use them. No problem.
I'll take you up on that.
No problem.
Because they're now like army specific ones.
Oh yeah.
And like sub faction specific ones too, which is really, really cool. And with the new Battletome for the Warclans, there's 2 new like kind of subsystems to narrative play. I don't know if you saw these, but the ransacking of territories.
I did see that.
So much
so cool.
fun. Like that's what like orcs are about. Like you kind of still need the basic ones to get big armies. Like unless you have like a cap on heroes and stuff, but you know it's like, oh, we found this Dwarden mine, let's go raid it, and then you can just keep it.
Awesome, right?
You can just keep it and keep plundering it, and then when you are finally ready to like ransack it, which is like a specific quest you have to do, you get just a bunch of glory points.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, so on my list on my roster right now, I have the mine. And I rolled human settlement, which I wish I had before we did the big siege battle.
Oh, yeah.
Because I could have like gotten a bunch more glory points.
You could have, yep.
And then I just recently got a Chaos Dreadhold, which lets you have to like send one of your heroes to it. And if you roll a 6, you can convince this Mega Gargant to like join your team and just go smash it, and you can add a Mega Gargant into your roster for free, and then you get a bunch of glory points for ransacking it. So I'm kind of looking at getting one of those models just for that one use
just
of it. The one use.
Mega Gargants are cool.
Yeah.
You know, I was about to say the failing of the last. It wasn't really a failure, but the narrative failure, I should say, of the last Path to Glory that we did, slow grow, like escalation.
Yeah.
League. I feel like the reason why that is because we found the Path to Glory system in 3.0, and we were like, oh, that'll do a lot of the narrative heavy lifting. And then previous to this, we had done mostly map-based campaigns.
Yeah.
Where after a battle, we would say, okay, what happened?
Yeah, I remember.
Territories taken. You could rename territories or like find new ones. And they didn't have any specific meaning other than that, you know, you were carving out your own little kingdom. And people kind of got into that, and they were kind of like, okay, well, this is the narrative that we're going for. And so they'd say, oh, who's nearby? What do I want? I want a mine and go against you this round or that round.
Yeah.
If we use that instead of Path to Glory, or rather with it, if people want to play do the Path to Glory thing, and then, you know, if they don't want to, then they can continue just playing games as normal and, you know, being a part of the campaign without having to do all the paperwork.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing the paperwork myself, but I can see how for some people it was dragging, especially with the... if you lost a game hard and then got a whole lot of casualties, you were like,
yeah, like I think it was Matt Becker with his skinks.
Oh,
right?
yeah, this
where he
poor
just like had 2 left, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And
he's like, this doesn't. I don't know what I'm gonna do with these skinks. Like he would have to hold them out for like 2 battles just to get them all up.
And those I went against those last week. His block of like 30 skinks. He wrecked me. I'm like, oh, skanks? No problem. I got those. And then I made some terrible choices.
No, those skinks will get you.
And he tabled me, like almost. It came down to like a titanic duel between my Snatch-a-Boss on the alligator.
The alligator.
Scumdrecker.
Yeah, Scumdrecker.
Versus his, like, Stegodon. And it was both of our finest hours, and we were, like, Titanic dueling each other.
Oh, nice.
And then we somehow lived through the combat. Like, he had 2 wounds left, and I had 1. And then it was his turn. And he's like, oh, yeah, by the way, I still have my 30 skinks. You haven't really killed those.
Done anything about
and
that.
I have my chameleon skinks that have been hiding. And I'm like,
oh, no, chameleon skinks.
Yeah, those
things
hurt
are so good.
a lot. But back to the narrative stuff for the orcs.
Now, if only you had 30 hobgrots to, you know, waiting in
What?
the wings?
No. No. I have only used the Hobgrots once, or maybe twice.
You used them in our game.
Yeah, that's true. As just like a screen against a Stonehorn.
That was great.
Yeah,
they did their job.
They did their job, and they even got a wound on one of them. So
they were even they even took snowballs to the face.
yeah, they took snowballs to the face. They took a charge.
Couldn't believe he used the snowballs on his Hobgrots. I was like, really? You sure, man?
But there was also in the narrative thing like a heroic upgrade. Which I thought was really cool in that, like, if you have a like regular kiloboss with the little stab grot, if he gets enough renown, you can upgrade him to a kiloboss on the Gnash Tooth.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then if you get enough renown with that one, you can get the Corpse Ripper Vulture.
Oh, that's cool.
And they do that with the Mega Boss, too. Like, if your Mega Boss gets enough renown, you can make it into a Mega Boss on a Maw Crusher. Which is a really cool, like, your general is becoming, you know, a general of a huge army.
Yeah, because before you kind of had to start as, you know.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, do you want to start it with a Maw Crusher or not?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, my narrative army, this may be some blasphemy for all of you hardcore Warhammer fans, but I do not have green orcs.
Oh yeah, you got red orcs.
Yes, yeah. I have red orcs. When I like started getting the Iron Jaws list and stuff, I fell in love with them because my favorite expansion of World of Warcraft was Warlords of Draenor. It was
really that's your favorite.
Yes. Oh my God. Are we gonna? We're gonna talk about that on a different podcast.
Not the first expansion. The first expansion?
Burning Crusade?
Yeah, Burning Crusade, which...
I wasn't around for Burning.
Oh my God. It was so crazy because you went from, like, vanilla WoW to this place that was, like, the land wasn't flat. It was destroyed all around. There were red orcs everywhere. And you're like, why are there red orcs everywhere?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, they drank the blood of demons. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool.
I played through Burning Crusade. Don't get me wrong, but I was not...
There's a difference between being there at the time.
Yeah, I know. But the one that I really... So I started at, like, the end of Wrath of the Lich King. And I played Cataclysm, and I thought Cataclysm was really dumb.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
And then I came in at the end of Mists for Warlords of Draenor.
We did the beginning of Mists, and then did the beginning of Warlords, and then didn't do the rest of Warlords.
Yeah, I stopped after Warlords because it was just not what I wanted to do anymore. Like the whole like progression of your little garrison and stuff, and it's like seeing the different storyline was so cool. And I saw the Iron Jaws, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the Iron Horde.
Right? That's them.
That's them. And I was looking at all the heroes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's Garrosh, there's Blackhand, we got Gul'dan, Ner'zhul. So I had all of my heroes painted, or most of them so far have been painted to look like those warlords. Like I cut the hand off of one of my war chanters and like replaced it with a blade for like Kargith and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was so cool to like see this game that I love like in physical form. So they're all like black armor, and some of them I started doing like volcanic details and like the eyes and stuff. Like
really?
What are the Black Rock orcs, and how they have like all these like molten lava kind of like seeping out of their armor.
That's
a
crazy.
lot of the Black Rock orcs, and so I started painting them like that. And like all the bone splitters that I had were also red, and they were all decked out to be like the more like jungle dwelling tribes of the Iron Horde. I think they were like Bleeding Hollow or something. So yeah, I had my narrative army for the league was like Ner'zhul, like a little Wargog prophet leading this group of little Black Rock orcs and stuff, and then. It was doing really well, and like I was writing all these stories about like, oh, we like fought these dwarves to like get all of their armor to smelt it down to make more stuff, and like we needed bones over here from the Seraphon, and we ran into some of these daughters of Cain. We'll just kill them. I couldn't think of like a resource that they might have, so I was just
elven bones are extremely pliable and durable.
Okay, I didn't know.
So they could have been used to make those horned short bows.
Okay.
That your guys use.
And it was at this weird point where the Cruel Boys were out, but they weren't kind of included yet because the book hadn't come out. So I didn't take any of the new models. I took like just the Gnashtooth one, just because he was a big monster.
I was like, hey, use that with your pigs.
Yeah, bully units and
pigs,
stuff. Yep. And then I went again, and I was having fun, like racking up glory points, racking up all these resources for my stuff. And then I met Maja.
Oh yeah, Maja. I'm sorry, Maja.
And at this point, it was the first time, it was the first battle with the 3.0 Orc Warclans. And I was like learning the new rules of the big Wa and stuff. And it was so cool because you had like the Mighty Destroyers, the Venom Encrusted Weapons, and this like mystical war paint of all three clans you could get.
Yeah, so you
like finally like Cruel Boys were usable.
Yeah,
with the big Wa.
You felt like you could use them.
Yeah, I felt like I could use them, and that was a mistake.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't a mistake, but I just don't think I went in with like the old rules of it, and it just was not what I was looking for, and I got creamed.
Okay, well, listen, here's what I did. So he put a very strong force in his back right flank of like 10 brutes because they were really good.
It was 5.
Or was it? I thought it was 10.
No, I only have 5.
Okay, so 5 brutes and like one other like power something or other back there.
Yeah.
But then your left flank was like a bunch of little hooligans.
Yeah.
Like it was almost nothing on the left flank.
Yeah.
So I sent Maja up to the left flank and she just wrecked.
Yeah.
She just went after it.
Yeah.
And I can remember you were like, okay, I'm gonna, you know what you did? You shot her with that stupid.
The Beast Skewer Killabo.
Yeah. You got a natural 6 on it and did like 8 wounds to her.
That is the only time it's hit something.
No, you also did the same exact thing in another game against me. You've done it twice to me.
Really?
2 times out of 2.
Okay, well then you are really unlucky with that thing.
It is so funny because every time you're like,
else.
God, no, not this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I've never been lucky like that in that.
I either get the hit roll and then fail the wound roll, or they make the save roll, and it just I've only gotten the 1/6 of mortal wounds. And I was
but it was against Maja.
Yeah. So and then after that game, I was just like really like I was really down.
Really?
Yeah, but it was fine. It was fine. It was just like
it
was just like getting. It wasn't at you. It was more at like, man, like I really have to retool how I play this game. Again.
For like the third time.
The third time. And I'm like, okay. And then I was reading the book, and apparently for like narrative list, the big Wa is only at like high tier.
Yeah.
And you have to pay glory points for each of the like rival clans. So you have to start with one clan, and then you can add like, I started with Cruel Boys when I redid everything. And
you abandoned the Iron Horde.
No, I didn't abandon the Iron Horde. I actually wrote a story about it, and it was like after like Maja like cleaned off everybody. Really, the only person left was my general on that side, and he just kind of booked it, and like kind of Ner'zhul like went back to whatever.
I killed your general too, by the way.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He killed every single one of those Khorne warriors, but there was warriors of Khorne that surrounded him.
No, that wasn't my general. That was my mega boss. He was meh.
Your mega boss wasn't your general?
No, he wasn't my general.
Who was your general?
My general was the Wargog Prophet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe did I charge him with Maja, or was it not? Then I couldn't get to him or something.
No, you in a different game you killed my general very quickly. It was the Stormcast versus him.
Oh, yeah.
Like an idiot, I put my mega boss.
Wasn't an idiot? It was just a really, really baller move.
Yeah.
You were just like, I dare you.
This.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah, and
you don't want to dare me, man.
And I think you had the Lord Imperatant with the little baton thing, which has come back to bite me so many times. Like, that baton,
so
I think
good.
you killed him with the baton.
Yeah, I did, because I did a bunch of wounds with the, what is it called, the little rider guys. Mm-hmm. There were like the guys on Dracoths.
Yeah.
And then you killed all but one of you killed one out of the 2 Dracoths, and the other one was down to like 2 wounds or something. So then I retreated it and rolled that 6.
Yeah.
And got him back.
And then you sent him back in, and you're like, oh, by the way, bonk. And he was gone. I'm like, okay. Yeah, that was a different game. So the one with Maja was like Big Wa and like she wrecked me, and Ner'zhul, my little prophet, like ran away, and I was like really like unsure of where to go from here. And I was texting you that night, and I'm like, I don't know if I can continue with like the big wall. Like, rules as written, I can't, because we weren't playing at high tier. Mm-hmm. And so I flipped a coin to see if I should just
remember that.
Scrap everything and start over.
And I remember saying, are you sure? Are you really sure?
Yeah.
You don't have to do this?
Yeah.
This conversation could have never happened.
Yeah.
If you wanted.
You were like trying to talk me back from the edge. And I'm like, no, I think I have like a story for it. And I had... I actually had Gul'dan the Betrayer at this point, and he was my swamp caller shaman.
Of course, that's
and he knifed Ner'zhul in the back, and,
as you do,
and the Iron Horde like kind of like fell into infighting and stuff, and everything was disbanded, and then he started like gathering forces and stuff, and then they started putting out all these new models, and then I kind of like killed off Gul'dan. Or I didn't kill him off. I retired him and had to like pay points to get another general because it didn't.
He killed him off.
He killed him off. And
You definitely killed him.
Yeah.
There was no retiring for these
you
orcs.
You can't make a swamp caller your general.
Really?
They don't have any command trait. I mean, you can, but you're not going to get a command trait.
Well,
it's only for killabosses and breakabosses.
Ah, that sucks.
And they don't have any artifacts.
Well, wait, could you give them a...
Yeah, I could give them a basic one,
yeah.
but those ones aren't fun.
You're right.
I want super sneaky, man.
Super sneaky. Yeah,
super sneaky. So I had a killer boss, like just with a stab grot as my general. When they released the Snatcha boss or Swamp boss, whichever one, that killer boss was also killed by the Snatcha boss. So I had a new general once again, and I had finally like a comfortable list, and I had some of the previous like Iron Horde boys like join up with all these guys, and they were like the Laughing Skulls and stuff.
Laughing Skulls.
Yeah, I took the Skull Bugs like sub faction for the Cruel Boys. Mm-hmm. I love them.
They're pretty awesome.
Like story wise, really fun. I know you talked about that on the atrocities thing of like killing.
They went down and they freaking just took over an afterlife.
Yeah, I just think it's funny that like you're gonna miss your
awful.
hits because a giant centipede is crawling on you, or
you go up to like the Mount Olympus and you're like, mighty Zeus, and some orc's like,
Yeah. Similar situation actually played out when I played against Justin with my Cruel Boys. He brought his Lumineth. So it was like round 2 with Justin and his Lumineth.
Oh, yeah.
And I was doing... It was a 2v1 of me and Hunter with his Ogres against Teclis.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Teclis.
And the Lumineth. Teclis got into combat with the Break-A-Boss, and he was so pumped to just, like, stomp on this thing because it was becoming a problem. And I'm like, oh, by the way, you're -1 to hit. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because I'm smelly. That was my mount trait for the Break-A-Boss. And like he's just like, fine.
Oh no.
Yeah.
My Teclis that auto-casts all his spells, he can only hit on
and then he's like, fine, I'll out attack. And then I'm like, okay. And then I get to roll the Skullbugs thing for another -1. And I think I got it. And he's like, fine.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mister. I'm gonna roll and cast a spell that makes it so that you have to use 2 command points for every one.
He didn't do that to us. He was nice enough to not do that to us.
It's awful nice of him.
But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun. Like once I got the Cruel Boys down, a lot of fun with them. Super Sneaky is really cool to do.
Super Sneaky is really awesome.
I wish it was better though. And there was a story in the new book that I think should have been how Super Sneaky works. So there's this really like short blurb of this Cruel Boy, like Killaboss or whatever, leading not only other Gut Rippers and his boys, but there was also a group of Iron Jaws and Bone Splitters that were attacking these humans on a river. Did you read that one with the raft?
No, I don't, or if I did, I can't remember.
So like they were waiting in the bushes for these like free guild marksmen or something to cross this river.
Oh yes, yes. Now I remember.
And they had like the Iron Jaws like rush in to the river to like meet them, and then they had the Mire Brute Troggoth like knock down trees that they had like previously chopped down a little bit to like fall on top of the raft, and it made bridges for the boar boys of the bone splitters to rush in.
Nice.
And then on top of all of this, underneath the raft, from like the muck and mire, rises up the sludge raker. The swamp boss, and he like came out from underneath of him, and I was like, that is so cool. So I wish super sneaky I didn't have to like immediately put them down. I wish I could like hold them in reserve, at least like a round, to like see what was going to happen, because it is so I haven't figured out how to use it right.
Well, I feel like it would be so cool if you could either choose to do it at that point or hold it.
And
then it come in as anywhere on the board within
just
like
have
9
something
inches or something. Or maybe just give them 8 inches, so that because they're super sneaky.
Yeah, they're super sneaky. So I typically use it with the Break-A-Boss, and like Jim and Matt Becker have like come to hate that thing because it's just I turn him into
that little guy.
No, I like hate playing against him.
Oh, I don't mind playing against him. You always use him, so you always like throw him right up at me, and I'm like, all right, I'll just
So, and you talked to me about using it like with the crossbows, the bolter boys.
Can you do it with any unit?
You can do it with any.
Okay,
unit.
So I actually have a little bit of an addendum to that. I think that you should use it with either your Hobgrot Slitters, or you should use it with your crossbow boys are kind of good if you just get them into place, but either Hobgrot Splitters or just a unit of 10 boys. And in any game where there's like objectives, like let's say there's 3 objectives, 1, 2, 3. After everybody's set up, you can tell which objective is your opponent's weakest. So you can say, I'm going to super sneaky over to this objective over on the left, and then you either have to spend resources to come get me off of this objective, and even then, God only knows if you'll actually do it.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Or
yeah. Because the way I do it is I've been using it is I turn the Break-A-Boss into just a bomb. Like I give him the ward save, the Amulet of Destiny. I make it his finest hour because I know he's gone. Yeah, I know he's not going to live, and I like do the mortal wounds on him to like get extra attacks and stuff.
Break a harness.
And I try and just clear out as much as I can while he's there. The times that I should have done that, I chose to switch it out and super sneaky the bolter boys so that they were in range. Boys. And I did it with my last game against the Seraphon, and that was a stupid move because there was a whole block.
You just shoot them.
A whole block of skinks in front of me. And I should have creamed them with the Break-A-Boss. And I'm like, no, I need to get rid of his heroes. Because that was what I was talking about with Justin in that, like, I should have... I moved the Break-A-Boss against the Lumineths when I should have used the Bolter Boys to get rid of that Cathaller, like, turn 1.
Yep.
So just get rid of that and cripple his little...
That thing is so annoying.
Yeah. And I didn't do it there. And then I'm like, okay, get rid of the heroes. Use them to, like, just pick off stuff. And then he had like a skink priest, a Carnosaur, an old blood, not on the Carnosaur, and then like the Stegodon. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to kill the Stegodon, so let's get rid of the wizard, free me up a little bit. And there was this huge block of skinks that I just didn't think was a threat. Because apparently they can do 60 attacks in the shooting phase.
They are very good.
And 90 in the melee or in the combat phase if he gets all the bonuses on him. And I'm like, what? And he's like,
watch out for those skinks.
Yeah. So I have not been as like strategic with super sneaky as I
it's a learning process.
Yeah, it's a learning process. Yeah.
You have to always I will have you know, when I first started this game I was 13, I think, or maybe 14. I think it was my 14th birthday. So in 1994, I was really bad. I lost every single game. Every game I ever did, I lost, and I played against people who were just not that far ahead of me, but I just did not understand. It took me every game, like the first 100 games I lost. Yeah. Can you imagine how, like, just disparate you feel after that? So after doing that, it was when I took statistics in college that I was like, oh yeah, gosh, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's how statistics work. Okay.
When we were doing the doubleheader against the ogres. Like it was Hunter and Evelyn. And before, like the week before, he's like, "You are going to learn to use your statistical gut and not we're going to go quick, and we're gonna get this down."
We did. We got it done before 9. We were packed up and out by 9.
Yeah.
And we had full 5 turns.
That was a fun game too.
That was a good game. I feel like if Hunter had only just committed to one side, or if he had not tried to rush both sides, he really ABCs. Like he really ABCs. But then he'll ABC with almost everything except for his strong stuff, which he kept like sort of in the back, like the Huskard. Like he kept his Huskard in the back while putting. Well,
that was the. It wasn't the Stonehorn. It was the Snowball one.
Yeah, but that one's still really good in close combat. Why not throw it up with your other one?
I mean, how can you not ABC with all of those big monsters? Like,
well, no. The problem is that he didn't ABC at the same thing.
I gotcha.
Like you want to run a bully squad. You only have he only had 4, 8, 10 models, right? 10 models and 1,000 points. That means that at least 8 of those models have got to be charging the same thing. You've got to look at your opponent turn 1, what I thought he was doing. You got to look at him and say, that unit and that unit are gone. And then you do whatever you want to me. You can delete one of my units, you delete one of my big things, but I know that 2 of yours are gone.
What would you have charged then? Or you would have swapped where the Stonehorns went and where the other, whatever the smaller beasts are?
Well, number 1, I would have, because he's got a lot of movement, especially when he's hungry. I would have ran everything over that left-hand flank, forced you out of, because you were in range to shoot everything on our turn, so of course you did, and most of it died. So I would have gotten just out of range to force you to move. I would have taken something, I would probably used something to take the middle objective and the right objective, which was real far away from you as well.
Yeah.
And then I would have said, we're getting objectives. You can just stay there and do nothing, or you can come at me. And if you come at me, then I'm going to come at you hard because, he's hungry, so he's got these extra inches. Yeah,
and moving those bolter boys when you don't want to move them, it is hard.
He could have gotten back to them. Positive. Yeah. He should have snowballed them. Absolutely. Yeah.
And their range gets cut in half, and
then Evelyn could have been throwing spells at us the whole time. Yeah. It would have been rough.
I don't think they had a wizard.
Oh yeah, she did.
She did.
Not only did she have a wizard, but she had a 2 casting wizard because she ran
the tyrant, right?
It wasn't a tyrant. It was the butcher. Her butcher with the spoon.
I don't think she had that.
She had a butcher with a spoon, and she put it right behind the pot.
I don't remember that. Okay.
The maw pot. Remember, she kept trying to get off the chomp spell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
okay. I thought it was her tyrant, but I guess not.
I really thought that they would have had a much better job of it if we kind of turtled because I knew that he was going to ABC. So I was like, oh, we'll just toss all your hobgrots out in front.
Yeah.
I have no problem sacrificing them.
Yeah. And also the mortal wounds that the Cruel Boys put out, just
they're very good.
Eats through a Stonehorn. And
it will eat your Stonehorn for breakfast.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, sending him into the Hobgrots was just really kind of fun to watch. I was I don't care about those, and then I got to pull my break a boss in and be like, hi.
Break and at that time you kept. I remember you asked me. You said, "Should we do super sneaky and put the break a boss up?" I was like, "No. Let's put him behind these Hobgrots."
Yeah, because he was on the other side.
Yep,
he was on the other side, ready to deal with the smaller beasts, and then you're like, "No." Let's put him over here, and I was like, "Oh,
murderer."
Yeah, that's really where I struggle. Is placement and figuring out how to respond to people and what I want to do.
What you really have to do is just play the armies, honestly. That's how... if I could play an army, then I know its weaknesses. And I know that, this army is super fast, but it only has 10 models. So if you kill any one of them, they're in almost trouble.
Yeah.
Or in your army, I knew as long as I can take objectives and stay moderately away from you, I can force you to come to me.
Yeah. And then,
But with Khorne, for instance... It's the same thing. I feel like that's the least oppressive army, Khorne.
Khorne?
Yeah, because no matter what, I have to charge you. No matter what. although sometimes I can force you to charge me, I'll always deal damage back to you. I'll always be doing wounds back to you as you're doing wounds to me, unless it's in shooting. So I don't know. It doesn't. Every game that I play with them always ends in somebody going, yeah, well, at least I killed 3/4 of your army. And I'm like, yeah, you did.
Yeah, I mean, I did still have a lot of fun playing against Maja. I mean, it was rough to watch. I just had to like sit down and be like, huh. But I like came back and I ended like in a good mood with that game because it was just fun to watch.
You know what's funny is that one day I was going up against Jim and Evelyn had forgotten all of my big models, and because she was. I asked her, I was like, Evelyn, can you please just pack up my models? I got a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah,
just
Evelyn.
And to get ready to go.
Yeah, I know.
And she says, okay. And she didn't pack up Maja, Faja, or any of the other. Like,
I remember.
So all I had were like my little guys, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I ever going to do this? Like,
honestly, the scariest moment playing against you is when like someone's telling you what's about to happen, and you're like, okay. Like you have like a blank face and you're just like, sure.
Yeah,
and I'm like now second guessing. Like I'm like, oh God, should I not be doing this right now? And I'm like, well, I don't have any other plans.
Don't worry, I'm thinking furiously too.
Yeah,
it's just I try not to ever show like that I'm like I'll say, oh no, when something dies, and I'll be like, no, I should have done this. But a lot of times when you're like, yep, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot you here, here, and here, and I'm like, do it, you won't.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, wait, hold on. Should I not now? And then I just like second guess myself on.
Well, when you shot you were like, I'm going to shoot Maja with this big old crossbow thing. I was like, okay, no problem. You go and do that.
Yeah, and I'm like, what does that mean?
Should I do that?
Yeah.
And then you dealt a whole bunch of mortal wounds to her, and I was like,
yeah.
No.
Yeah, the one time I really needed it to go through, it came through.
Yeah, it was really good.
I don't think I'll be taking that thing anymore. That
Really?
It just doesn't pay off because you get the one shot. And you have, you really do have to bring it if you're doing like the big Yeller clan where you can re-roll it.
Ooh,
and hopefully, you can hit and it'll wound and they won't save it and then you can do a bunch of damage. But like, also not a lot of people here have like monsters.
Really?
You know?
I always.
Well,
try
I mean,
monster.
they do, but like I haven't like. I ended up bringing it when I was going against like Jim and Cities of Sigmar, and I just wasn't thinking. I'm like, big crossbow, use it. And then I have like nothing really to shoot at because
shoot at those one wound dwarves.
Yeah. And I'm like, I guess I'll have to shoot at his ballistas.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And then he had like 2 of them. I'm like, oh, So I just felt like outgunned. But like, it's either that thing or the marsh crawler that
Marsh crawler slugouts
is
cool.
It's so good too, especially with like where the gut rippers are of like 4s and 4s and no ren. It's like yeah. So
giving that +1 to hit on 18 inches is so long,
so good. And then with the like bubble of X mortal wounds +1 on the swamp boss is just it gets crazy.
Yeah, that definitely gets good.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. Well, Alan is also, but I am gonna build a Slaanesh army.
Okay. Cool.
What do you think? What are your thoughts on Slaanesh? Have you played against them?
I have not. I have heard the tale of your game against them, but that's it.
So
I've never.
They're really good.
Yeah,
they're really good.
They look like honestly, they look so gross. They're so cool,
right?
Like the whole crab hands and
so
like those little mounts that they have.
Oh yeah, the little demonic mount.
Yeah, those and like the whole like wheel of spike chariot they have. I would.
That lawnmower?
Yeah,
like
that is
no,
just,
it's not a lawnmower. It's like a bush hog.
Yeah,
that's what that
it's
thing
just
is.
so like intimidating to look at. I have not played. The only chaos I think I've played against is Khorne and Skaven.
Well, so you haven't played against Tzeentch. Tzeentch. Okay, so when you play against Tzeentch, I do have a Tzeentch army, but I don't bring it out because it is very oppressive. Tzeentch will say,
blue horrors and all those. Or
no,
pink
I don't
horrors,
even. I have one squad of blue and pink horrors and whatever, but Tzeentch will look at you and say, "Oh, cruel boys, did you guys do mortal wounds?" That's funny because I will throw you out like 20 or 30 mortal wounds a turn. I'll be like, "Here, have 30 mortal wounds." I'm not joking. Like, they really
Is that
do
from
a lot
like
of
just the
mortals.
spells and stuff? Or?
No, everything does mortal wounds. Like Zangors, and they have a standard, and it does mortal wounds within 18 inch. Everything is like, come within my 18-inch bubble, I dare you.
I see.
And there's like spells that do tons of mortal wounds, and then there's things that do mortal wounds on 6s to hit. But most of the time, it's mortal wounds that are like, come into my bubble and see what happens.
Gotcha.
And it is mean. I mean, super mean.
I think we have someone besides you. I think Colin.
Yeah, Colin has it.
And he also has Nurgle too.
He does.
And I've seen him bring those. And I don't think I would like to play against each. I think I would get spanked really quickly.
Well, once you figure out what they're,
Yeah.
After you played them a couple times, like anybody who has not played against your army, I think that Colin will have a hard time playing against your war clans at the same time that you'll have a hard time playing against him. Like, you would have a terrible time playing against my Tzeentch because I know your army and you don't know my army.
Yeah.
But if you both don't know your armies, like each other's armies,
Yeah.
he knows your army a little bit, but he still doesn't know it well enough to say, what should I look for or look against with this army. So I think you would be okay with something like that. Or if we had if I played you 3 or 4 times with that same army, the fourth time would be a very even match.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because you'll know the army after.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And that's what I noticed about you. If you've played that army a couple of times, you'll give them either a very close match or you'll whoop their butt. That means you're a good player, especially because you've only been playing for like a year and a half.
Thank you. I'm always down for playing new armies though. Like,
I like playing with new armies. I like playing with different armies each time.
I like playing against new armies is what I'm saying.
I like playing with new armies. Like, I love playing my Ideneth. I love playing...
I would love to see them. I know that they are like extremely... Or are they still extremely oppressive? Or
They were really bad, but in 3.0... okay, so... Number 1, being able to not stack extra saves for their quote-unquote invulnerable saves. Can't be rended. That put them from, like, I can't even deal with this to, this could be dealt with.
Yeah.
They used to have this thing where you would take a whole lot of the same thing and just never die. And now you take a whole lot of the same thing and hope for 4 pluses and hope that you never die. But then their rend is mostly -1.
Okay.
They're not terrible.
But I would still like to see, like, I'm always down for playing new armies and stuff, especially with, like, the new book.
I'd say they're not as oppressive as new Stormcast.
Yeah.
Those new Stormcasts are pretty darn good.
Golden children of,
I'll tell you what.
AOS.
But when they came out, you have to understand, there was nothing like Deepkin.
Yeah.
Okay, so the one that came out before that was Warclans, and Warclans' big thing was, I have a 4+ armor save for my whole army.
Which I loved, and I'm so mad
Right?
that that's gone. Yeah.
That was their whole thing, is like, and it was strong. You have to understand, I went to Adepticon where Warclans went after they had just came out, and people were using them hard. They were really doing well.
Was the Big Wa, did that still have like the 6-up ward save?
Yes, but most people didn't run it. Most people ran Iron Jaws because they wanted to attack in the command phase.
Yeah.
That's what they wanted to do. So the army was, you would take like 1 billion brutes, and then, I mean, that's still the army, I guess.
Yeah.
But, and then you'd make them attack in different phases, and you just whoop people's butt.
Which is one of the big changes that I saw in I went and like looked at both books like this past week and like just took notes on what changed and why, or trying to figure out why. And like Mighty Destroyers, that command ability where you can like move something or charge something or make something fight.
Oh, it was
in
so
the
good.
hero phase. They changed it to just pile in.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, but why? Like, let me get a hit out. But the new like Iron Jaws Wa, I think, is a lot better. It was some wacky rule in 2.0 where you had to like count up the number of units in a bubble,
roll dice
and count. But now you don't, and you don't even have to spend a
all
command point to do it now. And it gives you +1 to charge and +1 rend. Which,
well, let me tell you how you used that in previous editions. In previous editions, all you had to do was be on like turn 3 and be winning the game and have a whole bunch of your guys mobbed up, like real close to each other, and also be winning the game. I cannot stress this enough. You have to be winning the game, because if all your guys were dead, it didn't do anything.
Yeah, it didn't do it. Yeah.
It was like you look. I remember using it actually in a game against Deepkin.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember his name is, but he was using Deepkin, and good Deepkin, right? Because he was a new player. He was a brand new player. He did well because Deepkin were really good.
Mm-hmm.
He came up against me, and he was like, "Oh, you're playing Iron Jaws. Isn't that quaint?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Iron Jaws. They're pretty good, right?" He's like, "Yeah, we'll see." And he was very disappointed at the end of that game, I think.
Yeah. But another cool change they did for the mega bosses was that when they issue commands, they can do it to multiple units at the same time for
so
1 point. That is awesome.
Just like the Realm Lords can.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Specifically that Justin plays.
Yeah. Yeah, they can.
So he makes 2 people shoot at you.
Yeah, that was all fun.
Okay, let's talk about the Warclans book.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what do you think the strengths of the new Warclans book are?
It really is like the Cruel Boys are the way to go for it. I just don't see. Well,
the new models.
It's definitely the new models are the strong part for it. And the Bone Splitters, it just R.I.P.
So awful.
So awful. Like, it's the age of beasts. And they got rid of all of their cool monster hunting abilities.
Let me ask you a question. What if...
okay. Yeah.
What if they gave them a 4+ ward save? Would that help? Every bone splitter, 4+ ward save.
Well, you can do it once in the game.
Like all the time, though.
Yeah, all the time, that would be nice. Like, because they have a 6-up save, and if it was a 4+, I would feel more comfortable bringing them.
Yeah, what if they gave them no save at all? Little dash.
Little dash
next to the save. Just like
then
zombies.
That's just a 4-up save.
4-up ward save.
4-up ward, I guess.
Remember, wards against wounds and mortal wounds, so...
Strengths-wise, it is, like...
It would make them into an anvil, right? The anvil that your army kind of needs, and a lot of new armies are coming out with like, oh, well, I wound on a 6, or I hit on a 6, therefore a mortal wound come to you.
I think a strength for the Ironjaws really is the War Chanter. Still, that is a key model, and I guess always has been. But now
+1 damage is so good.
But with the rally ability too.
Oh yeah.
Where if your Ard boys are within the little bubble of them, they can rally on 4s now. So you can just keep them there.
As long as you pull them out.
Pull them out.
The problem is when you get them into combats, they're only like 4-inch moves, so you cannot get them out of combat.
Yeah.
You just can't. So you can't run. You can't flee. I mean, when you flee, you can't run.
Mm-hmm. Like, I do think the big Wa, you can, like, steamroll. Like, you get +1 hit, +1 wound. Some people they still have the ward save for the Bone Splitters.
I played the other day. Big Wa.
Big Wa.
That's what I played the other day against Alan.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got to the 3rd round before it was +1 hit, +1 to wound.
Mm-hmm.
I got +1 to hit really quick, but then +1 to wound didn't happen until about I guess it was the 3rd round.
Mm-hmm.
And that did help.
That helps so much. It just becomes something, you don't need to spend command points anymore, so you can, like, keep your units there. The strength is the issuing commands thing, like conserving command points.
Conserving command points or canceling out negatives.
Yeah.
When you say you get -1, well, I already have this +1. I might have +1 from over here.
Yeah.
That's really nice. And
really cool strength, especially with the clan that I play, the Skullbugs, is that you can seriously stack debuffs.
Yeah.
Like, they have an ability on, like, a 6, and then it's a 4 if you're next to a monster. But also, the Scare Shields do the same thing on the charge rolls. Nice. And then the dirty tricks are so much fun. I mean, I only use the -1 wound in the first round. Like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But, like, stacking those debuffs and then hitting people with mortal wounds, and then in the combat phase when you do the Cruel Boys Wa, where you have your general and then 2 other units fight first. Like, I did that to Matt. Like, I was explaining stuff. I'm like, I'm just letting you know there's going to be a lot of debuffs and stuff coming at you. And then I forgot to tell him about the Cruel Boys Wa, so he pulled, like, 2 units of his knights and this big block of warriors into my general. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm going to attack with everybody first, and then whatever is left can go ahead and fight. And he's like, you did not mention this. I'm like, yeah, I forgot about it. I'm
okay,
sorry.
so now imagine like elves get that every time. Like when they pick somebody to fight, they pick 2 people to fight.
Yeah.
Well, at least the ones that Justin uses, they're really good.
Yeah.
But I keep telling Justin, I say, use the nastiest, cruelest tricks against me, and I will never complain about them.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Yeah.
The
debuffs is so much fun to play with, of just like having your opponent be like, oh, well, that's not going to work anymore. No. And then just like not even caring about their saves with like those 6s of like mortal wounds +1.
I'll tell you, okay, no problem. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And then I get scared and I'm like, ugh.
But you do everything right. I mean, everything is, the -1 to hit, -1 to wound. God, that is so annoying. I can't tell you how bad that is. -1 to hit, -1 to wound is oof.
Yeah, and then like them using command points to kind of get rid of it, and then be like, oh yeah, again, we're gonna do this. Like we had, when I was playing Matt Becker, we had like 4 different things we had to keep track of like -1, +1, -1, +1, and then it kind of like just ended up being even. And I'm like, this is fun. But the only thing I will say for the book that I wish was different was it's the Age of Beasts. Where are the monsters?
Yeah.
They're like they had a whole new sub-faction of the Cruel Boys, and there's 2 monsters in there, the Swamp Boss and the Vulture. Like that Break-a-Boss on the Trog
that should have been a monster.
I think the Gnashtooth, sure, it's like the same size as a Dracolith, or no, what are the Stormcast?
Gnashtooth, you mean?
Yeah. The Sigmar Dragon Riders, but not the ones without the wings. Dracos?
Yeah, Dracos.
Dracos. Those aren't monsters. I get that. There's multiple of them, but like there's the one model, and he's supposed to be the general. I think that should also be like a monster. And like all these like awesome things that they do with like monsters get extra command or victory points if you complete battle tactics with them, but also you get extra victory points if you kill a monster. Like I was like, where are the monsters? Where are the monsters?
And like the +1 to hit Troggoth, that is on a monster size base.
That is on a monster size base.
That is a monster.
And it is
It's got a Howdah.
It's not.
It's as big as a Stegodon.
I guess it's just too lazy to be considered a monster.
It's too lazy
to be considered a monster.
he's like Rampage.
Yeah. So it was that was like the only thing. That and rest in peace Bone Splitters the Icebone ones. The one sub
the Mortal Wound.
The Mortal Wound. It's the same thing as the Cruel Boys, but not as good because you don't get any of the bonuses for it.
Yep.
And they used to have so many like exploding 6s. Like if you did it right, you could get 4 extra attacks on a 6. That was so cool.
That was neat.
And they got rid of it. And I'm just like,
And what about the Savage Orc Moor Boys? They attack twice, and that was so good.
So good. And they get extra attacks if they charge, like 5 attacks, and then 6s explode into more. Like that's crazy.
When one of those units charges me now, and I'm like playing in like say Stormcast Eternals, I just laugh in your face.
Yeah, like if they kept those rules, and I would feel comfortable doing like the 6-up saves and the maybe ward save, like a 6-up ward save. If I could get just a bunch of attacks off on a charge, before I have to worry about anything, but it's not there anymore. But I think they're high. Okay, one thing I want to talk about is looking ahead. I think there's still some models to come out.
You were telling me about this. So what model do you think that is going to come out?
I think there's another. So they just put out the Harrow Deep box for Underworlds. There's a Break-a-Boss in there who's not on the Beast or anything. His little like gang of Hobgrots and Grots. But there's a picture in the book of a orc with like a little vulture on his arm, and I think it's just going to be another Break-a-Boss, kind of like the Kill-a-Boss with the Stabgrot, where he's just kind of like on his lonesome.
Yeah.
But in the book, I would have loved to see war machines for the orcs.
Like, that would be so cool.
The story of like Gordrak, and the giant ram that he made out of that god beast's head. Did you? And like he wanted to smash
Yeah.
the doors of Azir open and like fight. But he used it at Excelsis.
Yeah, Excelsis, and then it like broke. But it got the doors.
But it got the doors open. I'm like, and then they talked about the Cruel Boys made these mega choppas, like a winch-driven mega choppa that breaks down static defenses. And I'm like, where is that thing?
Yeah, wouldn't it be cool to just have a big old cart with this enormous choppa on it that goes down?
That would be
making like a tomahawk motion.
Cool, and like have like trolls like pushing it or something. That'd
be awesome.
That'd been so cool. That's what I'm like really. I would love to see. You don't have to give everything monsters if I can get a giant war machine.
Yeah, definitely.
The orcs.
What they did with Gordrax with his story. Did you read that?
I read it in the book. I didn't read any of the kind of expansion books in between.
It's in that book.
Yeah, in here. Yeah. So with the like giant worm.
So after he fails at Excelsis, because he does fail, because after Lord Croak teleports, what's his face away, and
Kragnos.
Yeah, Kragnos away, and the behemoths get kind of like taken down. He charges all these Astral Templars, and they hand him his ass. Yeah, like pretty hard.
And he realizes he's the only one.
Yeah, and so he leaves.
Yeah,
and he's like, I got me an idea. So he goes and he like uses his Maw Crusher. He makes it not fly, so that way it'll lure the God Beast with the portal in its mouth. Yeah, to this enormous sentient crack in the ground. Yeah. Where the God Beast gets stuck in the crack with its mouth open. Yeah. And so now he's just got this portal to...
the 8 points, right?
Yeah, the 8 points.
And he's just like, hey, let's go that way.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Let's go mess with Archaon.
Yeah, that was so cool to read about. And like his whole, like, him and Gobsprak's relation with Kragnos is just really funny.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Just like, Gobsprak, like, kind of just shows up to Kragnos and he's like, what do you want? What do you want to do? Right? Like, I'm not scared of you. And Kragnos is like, cool.
I think Kragnos just likes that he has somebody he can talk to now.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? They call Kragnos a god, but they also make mention that there was a time that he was actually like a young stallion. As far as I know, gods do not start off as young stallions.
Yeah, well, they talked about that a little bit in that he like amassed enough like kind of Wa energy almost that he became kind of a god. He didn't start out as a god. Yeah. He kind of just absorbed so much energy breaking Gur that he became a god at some point. Yeah, it was in there. I forget exactly.
I couldn't really... I mean, I was kind of reading it. I've read that book a couple times now, and every time I read it, I find something new in there. Something that hasn't been talked really about. I love how they discuss the Age of Chaos in that book. Did you read about that?
What specifically are you talking about?
I'm talking about when Archaon was invading all the realms. And so he goes to this like corn lord and he's like, you, go take Gur. And the guy's like, sure. And there was a pile of chaos warrior bodies a mountain high. Yeah. And the orcs were like, this is fantastic.
Yeah, this is the best thing in the world.
Yeah, they're like, well, let's party all day and all night.
It was just 500 years of fighting, and they're like, yeah, this is fine.
This sounds great.
And then Sigmar came with the Stormcast Eternal, and they're like, more people to play with. Oh my gosh!
And then, well, no, they got upset at Sigmar because Sigmar's like, no, we will bring peace to this land, and they were like, wait, what? Yeah. Excuse me? No.
Yeah, and then they just thought they were there to like fight. Like,
they're like new more toys. Stuff to fight. Oh wow!
And then the whole thing with them later on with the Bone Splitters, the Drakfoots with like demons and the Necroquake of like that the orcs just getting really mad that they can't actually kill stuff. Yeah, is just so funny. Like the Stormcast Eternals, they just pop right and go back to Azir and come back down, and then demons they go back to wherever.
Except for Gobsprak got that one hand.
He did get that one hand. And then
he showed off to his mates.
The Drakfoots, when like the Necroquake happened and like ghosts were popping up everywhere, they were just really mad that they couldn't hit anything. And they're like, no, we don't believe in ghosts.
We don't believe in you. They're like, you're not really a ghost. You're not
real. I can kill you. And then so they got to like ignore ethereal and just all ward saves.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually played a game of Bone Splitters versus Nighthaunt with Justin's army.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and I knew he was bringing them because he told me last week or the week before he was going to bring them. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to play Drakfoot. And he's like, oh, by the way, I'm ethereal, and I have the Deathless save. And I'm like, no, you don't. I don't believe in ghosts.
I don't believe in
ghosts.
ghosts.
And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I don't believe in them. I'm just going to...
Sorry, buddy.
Sorry, buddy. I don't believe in them.
All of my models are shit, but I don't believe in them.
Yeah, I don't believe in them. It was actually a much closer game than I would have thought. Somehow I got to, like, teleport something.
I played with my Night Haunt recently.
Yeah, the Dia de los Muertos one,
yep.
right?
And I was very surprised at just how viable they actually were still.
Yeah, because you had some doubts about...
I did.
Yeah.
I was very doubtful, but I don't know. I again, they do throw out mortal wounds at least.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't think they would hold up very well against like most armies. I don't. No, not against the elves. Not against the Warclans.
Yeah, finding like how to play against the armies is really what I gotta do, because all the stuff that I thought I relied on is not there, and I don't know like a whole bunch of armies. Like I haven't had that much exposure, so I think you're right in that I just gotta
play with them, play against them.
Yeah, play with them, play against them.
Yep, and you can always borrow any of my armies at any time. You can always say, "Hey, Matt, bring up your whatever." And heck, for this whole last thing, I brought my Death Army for Mike to use. That was no problem.
Is that the Flesh Eater Quartz?
No, not the Flesh Eater Quartz. The Soul Blight. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he used them to great effect.
That's cool. I've only done Flesh Eaters. I haven't done Soul Blight. I haven't played a whole bunch.
Soul Blight's good. They're very powerful.
They're fun.
You're more than welcome to borrow any of my armies at any time.
It'll take me some time to learn them, but yeah.
Hey, you learn by doing, right?
Yeah. But I've been fiending on battle reports. Like I've been just like binging.
That's good. You'll learn how to play.
And they don't do too much AOS, but it's good when they do. I do like those games, and like Mini War Gaming, they always are putting out stuff. But it's been a lot of Soul Blight Great Lords though, and a lot of people were saying like Age of Soul Blight, you know. So I do have a question for you though.
Yeah.
I know the Maggotkin is coming out soon. That's like the next book to release. What do you think is going to be the next book? Or what would you like to see?
What would I like to see? Well, there's supposed to be another, an actual new release, like a new race to be released in 2022. In fact, there were supposed to be two.
I did not know that.
But I don't know if any of them actually will be. What I would love to see, I'd love to see Beasts of Chaos. I'd like for them to do justice to that book.
Okay.
Because Beasts of Chaos are the worst army. They are, they're not quite as, no, they are as bad as...
as who?
As Grots.
Yeah.
I'd love for them to do Grots and Beasts. And I want to make Beasts of Chaos scary.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
No, they were never really scary, but I'd like to make them scary for the first time. And then I want to do a Beasts of Chaos army. I want to actually I want to.
Do you have any of those models?
I have.
I'm assuming you just have every single.
No, I don't have every army. I have a couple of Ungor Raiders but I do not have that army. I don't have a 2,000 point army.
Gotcha.
There. Mostly because the last time they came out, everybody was like, "Wow, these suck so bad." And the same with the Grots. Renee wanted to do the Grots, and they really sucked, but I love those trogs, so we collected a lot of trogs and a lot of squigs, and we made an army out of it.
I would like to see the Grots. I think they should put out destruction books first, because we have that's the whole thing now.
Yeah, we're in Gurk.
And how they interact with Kragnos would be really cool to see.
Oh, I'd love to see that. Yeah,
like how,
because you had Scraggot, right?
Yeah, and how do the trolls and like how do the Spiderfangs. Yeah.
What I want to see is how the interaction between Kragnos and the moon.
Yeah.
Because I would love to see this like rumor grow up out of that, and maybe it's like how you bind all three of the the moon clans together.
Yeah.
And maybe there's like a faction that splits off from them and says, no, it was Kragnos that split the moon with his hooves.
That would be cool.
Or something like that.
That'd be really cool, because he's been around forever. Yeah. And like Grots have too.
Wouldn't it be neat if the moon was like following him for a little while?
That would be actually really cool.
Or maybe it was just heading in the same direction and neither of them really knew it, but everybody was like, oh my God, conspiracy theories. Goblins make good conspiracy theorists.
Yeah. They're so funny. Like I watched a lot of videos on like the lore behind Grots and stuff, and I want to get some to add in. I would love to add some like Fellwater Troggoths to the Cruel Boys. I think those fit so well.
They're good.
And like maybe even Spiderfangs, just because like the Mortal Wound theme. I mean, they won't be as
They're
good.
terrible.
Yeah, I know.
But what I can tell you is that I used some of the Rockgut Trogs in my last battle with Alan, and they did really well. Do you know why?
Why?
I just made sure that they were within that 18-inch bubble of +1, because it's +1 to all friendly
units.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
They're really good, because he was like, "How much damage?" And I was like, 3, and he goes, "Ooh."
Yeah. So I think Grots do deserve a new book, because they
I want Grots to be good. I don't want them to be solid. I want you to be able to chew through them so quickly, but I want you to be like, oh crap, 20 Grots just charged me. If 20 Grots charge you, you better be watching it.
Yeah. And then I also think, like, just do the next destruction, Ogres. I think they need a new book.
I don't know. Ogres are fine.
You don't think so? I mean, a lot of their model line is kind of old, though.
Very old. Oh, excuse me. I remember when that model line first came out. Thank you very much. I actually do. I remember, because they came out at almost the same time the Tau did, and then I remember when their model line got a revamp in 2012, 2011, because it was just before we went to the Renaissance Festival, and all my friends came over the night before, and we got so drunk. I mean, horribly drunk. And then I had the worst hangover the next day when we went to the brightest day ever at the Renaissance Festival. But then on the way back, I stopped by the Games Workshop that was up there, because High Tide wasn't a part of my life at that time. And they had the new Ogre book. So I got it. And I got a couple Ogres, and I was really excited.
That's the Beast Claws, right?
No. They had an actual Ogre Kingdoms book.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Ogre Kingdoms. That's
okay,
it was back in Warhammer Fantasy days.
Oh, okay.
We're just talking about square bases here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Long since thrown away, by the way.
Yeah. The world that was, for real, for me. Like, I don't know fantasy at all.
Well, I really loved the world that was. Only because they had a lot of, like, I don't know, iconic traditions that I could really get behind.
Yeah. I know a lot of people, like, struggled with, like, going from that to Sigmar.
Like, I did. No, the only reason why is because before we had maps, we had cities, we had towns, we had definitive locations and border plans, and we went from that to like the Age of Myth, where it was like presented as this large, unformed landmass that you kind of had to. And there were no cities of Sigmar. There were no like, you know what I mean. You were kind of encouraged to make up your own story. And at the time, there were all these rumors about how they were going to do them. They were talking about like floating realms that would float around and bump into each other, and that's how you got battles. And they were talking about like nothing was really set in stone, and that's why people I think were upset, because you went from everything set in stone to absolutely nothing.
Like years of history, and like I mean, just with
no history. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
it felt kind of like a betrayal.
Yeah, I know.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I still stuck with it. I like the rule set. Love the rule set because it was easy. And you have to understand, we came from something that was so hard. You don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
Not a big deal. We came from a rule set that was so difficult to like figure out, to understand, and so precise in the way that you had to present yourself that like we would have fights over everything. Because you would have fights over facing.
Yeah.
You would have facing, and you would only be able to charge if you were at certain facings and certain angles. And you would have fights over. Thank God you don't have to worry about rolling. What are they called? Scatter dice. Scatter dice were the worst.
Yeah.
Oh, it was awful.
That was actually kind of like my intro to mini wargaming. Was like some kind of like community thing, kind of like what we did at the Dragon Boat Festival, where there was like this game store had a booth out, and they actually had a little mini table set up to play. It was like Space Marines versus Necron. It was just a tiny little list, and they would like teach you kind of like how to play, like really quick and dirty. And they had the little rings and the little like flame templates and stuff. And they're like, okay, now roll your like missile or whatever, and it like went way off course. I'm like, what? Hold on, I shot it at them, and he's like, nah, it didn't. Sorry,
it's over there.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah.
was such a pain. It was really a pain. And every single rule was designed. It wasn't like, oh, you roll a 2+ to hit. You would look at your ballistic skill and you would look on a chart to see what you needed to hit. And then, or if it was weapon skill, you would compare your weapon skill to your opponent's weapon skill and look on a chart.
Yeah.
It was rough.
I got a hold of the PDF of like the old Orcs book. I don't know what edition. I have no idea.
Oh, that was so awful because you had.
Yeah. I thought it was hilarious because there's one like page out there where they had a cutout you had to do for the foot of Gork. And, and you had to like put it on the table and like this is the effect of the or whatever. I could not understand the rules of like you actually had like a foot that you had to put on the board, and I thought that was
because you would cast the spell, you roll dice to cast a spell, or at that point actually it might have been our card system. There was once a card system.
Wow.
And you couldn't play with Magic unless you bought the card system or unless you were playing with somebody who had the card system.
Wow.
Other than that, you just couldn't play with Magic.
Wow.
Fortunately, my good friend at the time did actually have the card system. Unfortunately, he played High Elves and he murdered me. He would have Teclis like every game. Oh, it was so oppressive. Teclis back then was much worse than he is now.
That
worse.
is so hard to believe, but I'll take your word
much
for it.
worse than
I'll
he was
take
now.
your word for it.
And then you would have to like roll or get the card for the foot of Gork, and once it went off, you would have to put it there, and then you would have to roll scatter dice. So it could like scatter off. But if you rolled a hit, oh boy. Some things would die because it's any base that was touching it would have to, and usually everything was ranked up, so you would hit like 15 things or something.
Well, the foot of Gork is back. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, I did.
And
see that.
I didn't know that was like an iconic spell. And I immediately fell in love with it. I have not been able to get it off to like work yet.
I got it off once and felt so bad.
Yeah, because it just got rid of the whole thing.
I rolled so many mortal wounds with that thing.
Yeah,
I felt almost
like
bad.
D6 mortal wounds, and then see if it happens again. And D6 until the unit's gone, or you stop. And that's just crazy.
I remember my opponent went, dude, just you got it. You got the whole unit. And I was like, no, but I gotta keep rolling. Yeah. And they're like, man, come on.
Yeah.
It was a unit of like 32.
It was
a unit of 40 clan rats. That's what it was. Because at the time you take clan rats and they had 40 clan rats, and I felt bad.
Yeah. Just boom.
You stomped them
boom.
out.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think we ought to wrap it up here, but it's been really fun. Thank you so much.
It has been great talking with you. I was so excited for this when you asked me to come on the show. I've been loving listening to it, and I am so happy to be a part of it. So.
Oh, by the way, thank you. And I've been noticing that we've been getting listeners from all over the world, which is actually really cool. Like, hello from Russia.
That's cool.
Hello, Denmark. I saw some New Zealand.
That's
we had
awesome.
some from South America. Thank you for listening. Everybody from around the world, even people in Africa, in Australia, UK.
That's awesome.
You guys are awesome, by the way. Thank you very much for listening to what we have to say. I hope we can, make your day or at least your hobby a little better.
Yeah, it is fun to like listen while you're working on stuff.
Yeah, while you're painting and stuff. Yeah. So I get to the point of the end of every segment that I have a guest on, and I always let them have the last word. So here's your last word. And it doesn't have to be a word. It's more like a sentence or whatever you want to say. Go ahead and say it. Do not use any 4-letter words or I will bleep you out.
Yeah,
Otherwise, go right ahead.
I am happy to play a game anytime, anywhere. So if you are itching, and this is to anybody here at the store, anyone listening, I guess. I'm not going to fly over there. But if you want to play a game, let me know. I am always down. And even if it's not like AOS, if you want to, I don't know 40K, but I would love to learn. So I'm down for games at any time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for listening, guys. You have a great one. And until the next podcast, you guys take it easy.
Thank you for listening to Seriously Narrative, a Warhammer podcast.
If you'd like to get in touch with us for questions, please email us at seriouslynarrativepodcast@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page at facebook.com/Seriously Narrative Podcast. This episode of Seriously Narrative a Warhammer podcast, is protected by the Creative Commons license. If you have any questions about the Creative Commons license, please visit their website at creativecommons.org. Music is provided by Incompetech, created by Kevin MacLeod, and used under the Creative Commons license. Thank you for listening.